That night, my neighbor stopped me at the gate and shouted, "Your grandchildren are making too much noise at night. Their crying keeps me awake." I froze, but my daughter and son-in-law don't even have children yet. She insisted I saw the lights on very late, and someone carrying a baby inside your house. That night I installed hidden cameras. The next morning I pretended to leave on a business trip, but instead hid in the basement. When I watched the footage, my heart nearly stopped, and I realized someone had been planning this for a very long time. Thank you for being here with me. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave a quick comment and share your city or country. Stories like this invite us to reflect on trust perception and the unseen layers of everyday life. Some elements are adapted for storytelling, but the questions and lessons behind them are worth thinking about. Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. I was checking the mailbox when my neighbor, Mrs. Eleanor Hendricks, caught me at the end of her driveway. She was 74, gray-haired and usually cheerful. But tonight her face was pale, her hands clasped tight in front of her. "Aunt Nathan," she said, her voice low. "I need to tell you something. I hope I'm wrong, but I've been hearing babies crying in your house the last few nights." Very late after midnight, I stared at her confused. "Babies, Mrs. Hendricks, my daughter and son-in-law don't have children yet." She nodded quickly. "I know. That's why I'm telling you. I thought maybe it was the television at first, but I saw lights on very late. And through the upstairs window I saw someone, a woman, I think holding a child, rocking it." My chest tightened. "When did you see this?" "Last night, around 1 a.m. I couldn't sleep and I looked out my window. Your guest bedroom light was on. I saw a silhouette, someone pacing back and forth holding something small, and I heard crying. I forced myself to stay calm." "Are you sure it was my house?" "Psita?" Her eyes were worried. "Nathan, I don't mean to intrude, but if something's wrong, if someone's in your house who shouldn't be, you need to know." "Thank you," I said quietly. "I'll look into it." She squeezed my arm. "Be careful." I walked back into my house, my mind racing. Claire was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked up, smiling. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just chatting with Mrs. Hendricks." But everything wasn't okay. Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. Claire collapsed at the breakfast table. One moment she was pouring coffee. The next, she was on the floor, gasping for air, her skin pale and clammy. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, dropped to my knees beside her. "Claire, Claire, stay with me." Her eyes rolled back. The ambulance arrived in 6 minutes. Paramedics loaded her onto a stretcher, started an IV, checked her vitals. "What happened?" one of them asked as we rushed toward the ambulance. "I don't know. She just collapsed." At the hospital, Dr. Raymond Pierce, mid-40s, calm professional, met me in the emergency room. "Mr. Cross, we've run blood tests. Your wife has aconitine in her system." I stared at him. Aconitine? What's that? "A poison, derived from a plant called monkshood. It's extremely toxic, affects the heart nervous system. We've stabilized her, but she needs to stay here for observation." "How did it get into her system?" Pierce hesitated. "We're not sure yet. But based on the levels, it wasn't accidental. Someone gave this to her deliberately, likely mixed into food or medication over several days." My stomach dropped. "Deliberately?" "Yes." His face was grim. "Mr. Cross, I have to ask, does anyone have access to your home? Anyone who might want to harm your wife?" I thought about Mrs. Hendricks's warning, about the crying babies, about the lights at 1 a.m. "I don't know," I said quietly. "But I'm going to find out." By 3 p.m., Claire was stable but exhausted. I sat beside her hospital bed, holding her hand. "My Nathan," she whispered, her voice weak. "What's happening?" "I don't know yet," I said. "But you're not going home until I figure it out." I called Malcolm Turner, my attorney, and the foundation's treasurer. Explained the situation. Asked him to book Clare a hotel room under a false name. Nathan, are you sure? Malcolm's voice was concerned. Maybe you should call the police. Not yet, I said. I don't have proof, just suspicions. If I call the police now and I'm wrong, it'll destroy my relationship with my daughter. I need evidence first. By 6 p.m., Clare was checked into a downtown hotel under the alias Sarah Mitchell. Cash payment. No credit cards, no digital trail. I kissed her forehead. Stay here. Don't tell anyone where you are, not even Meredith. You think Meredith? I don't know what I think yet, I said. But until I do, you stay hidden. That night, the same night Mrs. Hendricks warned me I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those crying babies, about the lights she'd seen, about someone holding children in my house. At 11 p.m., I made a decision. I drove to a 24-hour electronics store across town and bought 5 wireless cameras, smoke detector, wall clock, picture frame, bookshelf, thermostat. Small, hidden, high resolution, night vision, cloud backup. The clerk rang them up without asking questions. By 1 a.m., I was back home installing all 5 throughout the house. Living room, smoke detector camera, mounted on the ceiling, angled toward the couch and front door. Kitchen wall clock camera above the table, capturing the entire room. Hallway picture frame camera on the wall facing the staircase. Office bookshelf camera tucked between 2 law textbooks aimed at my desk. Upstairs, guest bedroom thermostat camera on the wall covering the bed and window. I synced them to my laptop and phone. Real-time alerts, motion detection, audio recording, everything uploaded automatically to the cloud. Then I packed a bag, laptop charger, external hard drive, clothes, toiletries, and drove to a motel 25 miles outside town. The roadside inn, $40 a night. No questions asked. I checked in under my real name, no point hiding, and collapsed onto the bed. At 7 a.m. Thursday morning, I texted Clare. I'm going out of town for a few days foundation business. Don't worry, I'll call you tonight. Then I texted my daughter Meredith. Sweetheart, I'm heading out of town for work. The house will be empty for a few days. Just wanted you to know in case you need anything. I stared at the message for a long moment before hitting send. If Meredith was innocent, the text meant nothing. If she wasn't, it was bait. I opened my laptop and logged into the camera feeds. 5 windows, 5 angles. My entire house laid bare on a 13-inch screen. The house was empty, silent. Morning light filtered through the curtains, but I knew that wouldn't last. By nightfall, someone would come, and I would see everything. I leaned back against the headboard, my heart pounding. My daughter, my own daughter. I didn't want to believe it, but Mrs. Hendricks had heard crying babies. Dr. Pierce had found poison in Clare's blood, and someone was using my house when they thought I wasn't watching. Tomorrow I would know the truth, and that terrified me more than anything. Thursday evening, 8 p.m. I descended into the wine cellar of my own home. The panic room wasn't just a bunker anymore, it was my hideout, my surveillance post. After installing the 5 cameras the night before, I'd made a decision. I wouldn't flee to a motel. I would stay right here, hidden beneath my own house, and watch everything unfold from the shadows. That morning, I'd texted Meredith. Sweetheart, I'm heading out of town for work. The house will be empty for a few days. Just wanted you to know in case you need anything. Then I'd moved my laptop, external hard drive, phone charger, bottled water, granola bars, and a change of clothes down into the panic room. I locked the steel door behind me and settled in. At 11 p.m., I sat at the folding table staring at 5 camera feeds on my laptop screen. Living room dark empty. Kitchen dark empty. Hallway dark empty. Office dark empty. Upstairs bedroom dark empty. Nothing. I leaned back, rubbing my eyes. Maybe Mrs. Hendricks had been mistaken. Maybe. Movement. Kitchen camera. A shadow crossing the frame. I sat up, heart pounding. The back door opened slowly, carefully, like someone who knew exactly where the hinges creaked. A figure stepped inside. Male, average height, dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low. He closed the door behind him, locked it, and stood still for a moment listening. Then he walked through the kitchen, past the table where Clare had collapsed 2 days ago, and moved toward the stairs. I switched to the hallway camera. The man climbed the stairs, his footsteps silent. Practiced. He reached the second floor and turned left toward the guest bedroom. I zoomed in on the upstairs camera. The man opened the door and stepped inside. For a moment the room was dark. Then he turned on a lamp. Soft yellow light filled the screen. And then I saw them. 2 children. A boy maybe 3 years old sitting on a makeshift bed, a pile of blankets and pillows on the floor. A girl younger, 18 months perhaps, lying beside him, her tiny fist wrapped around a stuffed rabbit. Both wore pajamas. Both looked tired. The man knelt beside them, pulled 2 bottles of milk from a small cooler in the corner, and handed one to the boy. The boy took it without a word, his wide eyes fixed on the man's face. The girl started whimpering. The man picked her up, gently held her against his shoulder, rocking slowly, whispering something I couldn't hear through the audio feed. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. Who was this man? Where had these children come from? And why were they in my house? At 11:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. I opened it, hands shaking. Mr. Cross, I know you're watching. We need to talk. But not tonight. Tomorrow. I'll explain everything. Please don't call the police. The children are safe, I promise. I stared at the message, my pulse hammering. How did he know I was watching? How did he have my number? I typed quickly, "Who are you?" No response. I looked back at the camera feed. The man was still holding the little girl, rocking her gently. Her whimpering had stopped. She rested her head on his shoulder, eyes half closed. The boy had finished his bottle and lay down, curling onto his side. At 12:30 a.m., the man laid the girl beside her brother, covered them both with a blanket, and sat on the floor against the wall, his back to the camera. He didn't move for the rest of the night, and neither did I. I sat in that underground bunker, watching the glowing screen in the darkness, my coffee going cold, my eyes burning, my mind racing with questions I couldn't answer. Who was he? Why was he hiding in my house? Whose children were those? And what did any of this have to do with Clare being poisoned? By 7 a.m., the man stood stretched and walked downstairs. I switched to the kitchen camera. He opened the refrigerator, my refrigerator, and pulled out eggs, bread milk. He made scrambled eggs and toast, poured 2 small cups of milk, and carried everything upstairs on a tray. The children ate quietly. The boy said something I couldn't hear. The man nodded, smiled a tired, sad smile, and ruffled the boy's hair. After breakfast, the man cleaned the dishes, wiped down the table, and carried the children downstairs to the living room. He turned on the television cartoons volume low and sat on the floor with them. The boy played with a toy dinosaur. The girl toddled around the room, giggling, chasing a ball, and the man watched them with an expression I recognized immediately: love and fear. At 8:14 a.m., the man pulled out his phone and made a call. I leaned closer to the screen, wishing I could hear. He spoke for maybe 2 minutes, his face tense, his free hand rubbing the back of his neck. Then he ended the call and sat on the couch, head in his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying. I stared at the screen, my chest tight. Whoever this man was, he wasn't a criminal. He wasn't some stranger breaking into my house for fun. He was desperate, running from something or someone. At 9 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. I'll call you at noon. Please answer. I'll explain everything. The children's lives depend on it. I read the message 3 times. The children's lives depend on it. I looked back at the camera feed. The little boy was building a tower out of blocks. The girl was sitting in the man's lap, sucking her thumb, half asleep. And the man was staring at nothing, his face hollow and exhausted. I set my phone down and waited for noon. At exactly 12 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Who is this? A pause. Then a man's voice, quiet and shaking. Mr. Cross, my name is Trevor Palmer. I'm Tyler's twin brother. I froze. Tyler's... what? His twin. Identical. We don't talk much, haven't in years. But 3 weeks ago, your daughter found me. She offered me $15,000 to stay in your house for a few days and pretend to be Tyler. She said it was for insurance purposes that the house needed to look occupied while you and your wife were traveling. My blood ran cold. 15,000. Yes, sir. 5,000 up front. 10,000 when the job's done. I needed the money. I'm in a custody battle with my ex-wife and my lawyer bills are killing me. So I said yes. And the children, mine. Cole is 3. Lily just turned 18 months. My ex won't let me have them overnight anymore, says I can't provide stable housing. So when your daughter said I could stay in your house for a week, I thought it was a chance to spend time with them, to prove I could take care of them. I closed my eyes, my mind racing. Trevor, what exactly did Meredith tell you? That you and your wife were traveling, that the house would be empty, that all I had to do was keep the lights on at night, make it look lived in, and not answer the door if anyone came by. And you believed her. A long pause. Then quietly, I didn't have a choice, Mr. Cross. I'm 3 months behind on rent. I'm about to lose custody of my kids. $15,000 it's everything. I opened my eyes. Trevor, my wife, didn't go traveling. She's in the hospital. Someone poisoned her. Silence. And I'm not traveling either, I continued. I'm in my own house right now, hidden in a bunker beneath the wine cellar, watching you through cameras I installed 2 nights ago. Oh, God. Trevor's voice broke. She lied. She lied to me. Mr. Cross, I swear I didn't know. I would never. I believe you, I said. But I need you to stay calm. Don't leave. Don't call Meredith. Don't do anything. Just stay there. Take care of your kids. And tonight, when Meredith calls you, because she will, I need you to act normal. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. Good. I'll contact you again soon. And Trevor? Yes. You and your kids are safe, I promise. I ended the call and stared at the laptop screen. Trevor Palmer, Tyler's twin brother, hired by my daughter to occupy my house while she… What? Poisoned Clare planned something worse. I opened a new document and started typing. Timeline, week of November 18th. Meredith hires Trevor, pays him $5,000 up front. November 20th, Tuesday, Mrs. Hendricks hears crying, sees lights. November 21st, Wednesday. Clare poisoned, hospitalized, November 21st, night. I install cameras. Hide in basement panic room. November 22nd, Thursday. I discover Trevor plus kids via camera feed from Bunker Key. Question, what is Meredith planning? I stared at the screen, and then my phone buzzed. A text from Meredith. Dad, I heard Claire's in the hospital. Are you okay? I'm coming over tomorrow to help. Love you. I read it twice, then I typed back. Thanks, sweetheart. I'm managing. See you tomorrow. I hit send, and I knew tomorrow everything would change. Above me, through the steel door and concrete ceiling, I heard footsteps. Trevor walking across the kitchen floor, the children laughing, and I sat in the darkness of my underground bunker, surrounded by canned food and bottled water and glowing camera feeds, waiting, watching. Ready? If you're still here, comment still here, so I know you're following this with me. And tell me if you were in my position, would you confront what's happening immediately, or stay quiet and watch a little longer to uncover the truth? I really want to know what you would do. And just a gentle note, the next part of this story includes some dramatized elements for storytelling. If this isn't something you're comfortable with, feel free to stop here. I woke at dawn in that motel room laptop still glowing beside me. 6:30 a.m. On screen, a man paced my kitchen, bouncing a crying baby against his shoulder. Shh, sweetheart, he murmured. Daddy's here. A little boy, maybe 3, wearing dinosaur pajamas, wandered in, dragging a stuffed elephant. I'm hungry. The man smiled, tired. Oatmeal with dinosaur-shaped brown sugar. Yeah, I watched him cook. Crack eggs one-handed while holding a bottle. Pour oatmeal, arrange brown sugar into a T-Rex shape. Feed the baby girl with airplane noises. Read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Play dinosaurs on the floor, making roars that made the boy laugh. And I thought, this man is a father. Not a stranger, not a villain, a father. But underneath the gentleness, I saw fear. At 10 a.m., after settling the kids in front of a cartoon, he started cleaning. Obsessively. Wiping every surface in the kitchen counters, table chairs, handles. Vacuuming the living room 3 times, going over the same spots until the carpet lines were perfect. Straightening cushions, aligning magazines, rearranging toys in a basket. His hands shook. At 2:14 p.m., the boy knocked over apple juice. The man lunged for paper towels, scrubbed the floor frantically. The boy cried, "I'm sorry, Daddy." And the man stopped, pulled him into a hug. "It's okay, buddy. Accidents happen." But his voice was tight. His eyes darted toward my cameras as if he knew someone might be watching. As if there would be consequences for a spill. I sat back, coffee cold in my hand, and felt something twist in my chest. This man wasn't a criminal. He was terrified. The day crawled. I watched him make lunch, put kids down for naps, sit with his head in his hands for 20 minutes. At 6 p.m., chicken nuggets and carrots. At 7:30, baths and pajamas. At 8 p.m., bedtime stories. And at 8:14 p.m., he made the call that changed everything. I was half dozing when his voice cut through the kitchen camera's audio. "Yeah, it's me." I grabbed headphones, cranked volume. He paced phone, pressed to ear, voice low. "When do I get the rest of the money?" Silence as he listened. "Sunday night after the old man is taken care of." He said it with sick emphasis that made my pulse spike. More silence. 10,000 right, like we agreed. $10,000. Sunday night, after the old man is taken care of. And what about the kids? His voice cracked. "You promised no one would get hurt. You promised Meredith." Meredith. Then I heard her distant, tinny, unmistakable. "Relax, Trevor. Just keep pretending you're Tyler. Dad doesn't suspect a thing." Trevor, the twin brother, my son-in-law's mirror image, and my daughter had hired him. On screen, Trevor ran a hand through his hair, looking sick. "I need that money, Meredith. The custody hearing is next month. If I don't have it, I lose my kids. You'll get your money. Just do your job. Keep the house clean, take care of those kids, and don't let anyone know you're not Tyler. Can you do that?" "Yeah, I can." "Good. I'll see you Sunday." She hung up. Trevor stood there staring at his phone. Then his face crumpled. He sank into a chair, put his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. After a moment, he walked to the guest room, sat on the boy's bed. The boy stirred. "Daddy." "Hey, buddy, go back to sleep." "When are we going home?" Trevor stroked his son's hair, voice thick. "Soon. Once Daddy gets the money, we'll go to court, and the judge will say you can live with Daddy forever. I promise." The boy smiled, closed his eyes. Trevor sat there watching him sleep, and I sat in the motel room watching Trevor, understanding with perfect clarity. He had no idea what Meredith was planning. He thought it was house-sitting. 15,000 total, 5 up front, already spent on lawyers, 10 on completion. No one gets hurt. That's what she'd told him. He didn't know he was part of a plan to end my life. I pieced it together fast. Meredith told Trevor this was simple. "Watch the house while Dad's traveling. Pretend to be family so burglars don't target the place. 15,000 for a week of work." Trevor believed her. He's desperate, custody battle lawyer, fees stacking up, about to lose his kids. 5,000 up front bought him another month with his attorney. 10,000 more would get him through the hearing. She found his weakness and exploited it. And Trevor, gentle, terrified Trevor, had no clue He was a pawn in something darker. Not a villain, a victim, just like me. At 11 p.m., I called Clare. Hi, Nathan, groggy, worried. Everything okay? Yeah. Are you safe? Your door's locked. I'm safe. Pause. Did you find something? I told her Trevor the twin 15,000 custody battle Sunday night. When I finished, she was quiet. Nathan, what happens Sunday? I don't know yet, but I'll find out. Please be careful. I will. I love you. I love you too. I hung up, stared at the feeds. Trevor asleep on my couch, one arm over his face. Exhausted, desperate, trapped. My phone buzzed. Meredith, Dad. Can I stop by tomorrow? I left some files in the guest room. Love you. Tomorrow. She was coming to the house tomorrow, and I was 25 miles away watching her show play out on hidden cameras. I stared at that message, love you, and wondered how long she'd been planning this. How many dinners, how many holidays, how many texts while she plotted my removal Sunday night. 4 days away. 4 days to figure out her plan. 4 days to gather proof. 4 days to decide what to do. I looked at the screen. Trevor shifted on the couch, murmured in his sleep. Tomorrow Meredith would walk into that house, talk to Trevor, check her plan, and I'd be watching. Every word, every movement, because now I knew. My daughter had hired a desperate father to impersonate my son-in-law, while she arranged for someone to take care of me on Sunday night. And Trevor, poor, terrified Trevor with his custody battle and his dinosaur pajama kid, had no idea he was helping her do it. I had to protect him. And I had to stop her, starting tomorrow. Friday morning, I sat in that motel room with my phone in one hand and coffee growing cold in the other, staring at the message I was about to send my daughter. Me, I'm at the foundation office downtown, sweetheart. House is empty if you need anything. The Victoria Cross Memorial Foundation, the charity my late wife started, where I still served as part-time chairman. A truth wrapped in a lie. I wasn't at the office. I was 25 miles away, watching 5 camera feeds on a laptop, waiting to see what my daughter would do. I hit send. 3 dots appeared immediately. Meredith is typing. Meredith, thanks, Dad. I just need to grab those files. Be in and out. Love you. I stared at that heart emoji. That casual love you tacked on the end, like she'd been doing for 34 years. My hands went numb. At 10:08 a.m., I sent another text, this one, to a number I'd pulled from the camera system's audio analysis, a burner phone Trevor had used yesterday. Me, Meredith, coming in 5 minutes. Stay upstairs. Keep kids quiet. She thinks house is empty. 3 minutes passed. Then, Trevor, okay. I watched the upstairs camera feed. Trevor appeared in the hallway, scooped up the little boy Cole I'd heard him called, and carried him into the guest room. The baby was already napping. He handed Cole a tablet with headphones, put a finger to his lips. We're playing the quiet game, buddy. Can you be super quiet for Daddy? The boy nodded wide-eyed. Trevor closed the door softly. Good. Whatever was about to happen, those kids wouldn't see it. At 10:14 a.m., my front door opened. I leaned toward the laptop screen, turned up the volume. Meredith stepped into the entryway, my daughter wearing a gray blazer and jeans, carrying her leather work bag. She looked professional, put together, like she was stopping by between client meetings. She didn't call out, didn't say Dad or anyone home. She just walked straight through the living room, past the kitchen, down the hallway toward the bedrooms, straight to my room, my bedroom. The one I'd shared with Victoria for 15 years, then with Clare for the last 2. I watched through the hallway camera as Meredith pushed open the door, walked to the nightstand Clare's side, and opened the top drawer. For a moment she just stood there looking down at whatever was inside. Then she reached in and pulled out a pill bottle. I zoomed in on the bedroom camera feed, the one hidden in the picture frame on the dresser. Clare's blood pressure medication. Lisinopril, 10 milligrams. The same pills that had sent her to the hospital 3 days ago. Meredith held the bottle up to the light, shook it once, nodded to herself. Then she set it on the nightstand, opened her bag, and pulled out an identical bottle. My breath stopped. She unscrewed the cap on Claire's prescription, dumped the pills into her palm, maybe 20 of them a week's supply. Dropped them into a tissue, folded it, put it in her pocket. Then she opened the second bottle, the one from her bag, and poured its contents into Claire's prescription bottle. The same white capsules, the same size, the same shape, but not the same medication. She screwed the cap back on, put the bottle back in the drawer. Exactly where Claire kept it. Exactly where Claire would reach for it tomorrow morning, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. Meredith smoothed the drawer closed, stepped back, surveyed the room. Satisfied, I sat frozen in the motel room, watching my daughter. My little girl who I'd taught to ride a bike and helped with geometry homework, and walked down the aisle 3 years ago, calmly, methodically, prepare to end my wife's life. She knew exactly where Claire kept her medication. Of course she did. She'd been in our house 100 times. She'd probably planned this for months. Something cold settled in my bones. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This wasn't rage or impulse. This was premeditated, calculated, surgical. Meredith walked back to the kitchen. I switched to that camera feed. She opened her bag again, pulled out a small black device, maybe 2 inches long, cylindrical. A listening device. The kind you could buy online for $50 if you knew where to look. She crouched down, reached under the kitchen table, pressed something. When she pulled her hand back, the device was gone, stuck to the underside of the wood, invisible, unless you got on your hands and knees. She stood, brushed off her jeans, pulled out her phone, and sent a text. I couldn't see the screen from the camera angle, but 10 seconds later her phone buzzed. She smiled. Then she walked to the front door and left. Just like that. In and out. 17 minutes, start to finish. I grabbed my own phone, pulled up a new browser window, searched for counter-surveillance equipment. Found a device that claimed to detect and hijack wireless bugs. Ordered it. Next day delivery. If Meredith was listening to my house, I'd listen to her listening. Turn her own weapon against her. Upstairs, Trevor opened the guest room door, carefully looked around, then let Cole come out. "Good job, buddy. You were so quiet." The boy beamed. Trevor picked him up, carried him downstairs, turned on the TV. Sat on the couch with Cole tucked against his side, staring at cartoons, but I could see his hands shaking. He knew something was wrong. He just didn't know what. I picked up a notebook, wrote, Day 3, 10:14 a.m. Meredith entered house. Swapped Claire's medication with unknown substance, likely same poison from hospital. Planted listening device under kitchen table. In/out 17 minutes. Confident. Practiced. Trevor remained hidden upstairs with kids per my instruction. Then I added, she's done this before. The rest of Friday passed slowly. I watched Trevor make lunch play with the kids, clean the kitchen again with that same nervous energy. I watched him check his phone every 20 minutes, probably counting down to Sunday night, to that $10,000 to his custody hearing. I watched the sun set through my kitchen window via camera feed. And at 11:47 p.m. I watched someone else enter my house, this time the back door. A man tall, mid-40s, wearing a dark jacket and gloves, stepped into my kitchen like he owned the place. No forced entry, no broken glass. He had a key. I sat up straight, switched camera angles, zoomed in on his face as he passed under the hallway light. Preston Vance. I knew that face. I'd seen it on the news 18 months ago when he'd been disbarred for forging client signatures, embezzling settlement funds. A lawyer who'd lost everything, his license, his practice, his reputation, and now he was in my house at midnight, walking straight to my office. I switched to the office camera. Preston went directly to my desk, opened drawers, rifled through files. He wasn't searching randomly, he knew what he wanted. He pulled out folders labeled Foundation Board Minutes, Foundation Financial Records, Estate Documents, papers I'd organized myself, legal documents about the Victoria Cross Memorial Foundation, about my will, about property transfers. He stacked them on the desk, pulled out his phone, took pictures of every page. Fast, efficient, methodical. Then he put everything back exactly where he'd found it, closed the drawers, and left the same way he'd come. In and out. 12 minutes. Upstairs, Trevor slept on the couch, one arm over his face, exhausted. He never heard a thing. I sat in the motel room staring at the empty office on my screen and felt pieces clicking into place. Preston Vance. Disbarred lawyer. Probably desperate for money, willing to do illegal work for the right price. Meredith had hired him, just like she'd hired Trevor. But Preston wasn't a pawn. Preston knew exactly what he was doing. He was researching my assets, my foundation, my estate. They weren't just planning to harm Clare. They were planning to take everything. And Sunday night, 3 days from now, something was going to happen that required my house to be empty. Trevor gone, Clare out of the picture. Sunday night they were going to make their move, and I was going to be ready. I picked up my notebook, wrote, Day 3, 11:47 p.m. Preston Vance, disbarred lawyer, entered via back door with key. Meredith gave him access. Photographed foundation and estate documents. Knows exactly what he's looking for. This is bigger than Clare. They're after the whole estate. Players identified: Meredith, daughter, mastermind; Trevor, unwitting pawn; Preston, co-conspirator, legal expert. Timeline: Sunday night. 3 days. Next steps: hack listening device. Gather more evidence. Protect Trevor if possible. Wait for them to reveal the full plan. I closed the notebook, looked at the clock. 12:14 a.m. Saturday now. 2 days until Sunday. 2 days to figure out how they planned to end my life and take everything I'd built. I wasn't calling the police yet. Not until I had everything on tape. Not until I could prove intent, conspiracy, premeditation. Not until I could make sure my daughter never hurt anyone again. I pulled the laptop closer, started a new recording folder, evidence, day 3, and I kept watching. That same afternoon, 3:42 p.m., I sat hunched over my laptop in that dim motel room, watching lines of code scroll across the screen as the hacker device synced with Meredith's listening bug. The software was consumer grade, $15 on a tech forum, but effective. Within minutes, I was hearing everything her device picked up. At first silence, then the faint rustle of fabric. A phone vibrated. Meredith's voice clipped and cold. Tyler, what do you want? My entire body went rigid. Tyler, my son-in-law. The man I'd trusted with my daughter's happiness. I heard about Clare. His voice was thin, distant, likely a hotel room. Is she okay? She's fine. Hospitalized. Minor reaction. Meredith's tone was dismissive. Why are you calling? A pause. Then, I have the recordings, Meredith. My breath stopped. What recordings? Her voice sharpened, blade-like. From July. Tyler's words came faster now, nervous. 6 months worth. Every conversation. Every plan. I recorded everything. I grabbed a pen, scribbling notes on the back of a receipt. Tyler recordings since July. 6 months. You're lying. Meredith's voice was ice. You wouldn't. I would. I did. Tyler cut her off. I started after you told me about the foundation money, when you said we'd handle your father if he found out. I knew what you meant, Meredith. I'm not stupid. Foundation money. My chest tightened. The Victoria Cross Memorial Foundation, named after my late wife, funded by her life insurance policy, and our savings, had been operating for 7 years. Meredith served as treasurer. I'd trusted her completely. Tyler. Meredith's voice dropped dangerously soft. If you have recordings, you're admitting complicity. Conspiracy. You're looking at 20 years federal time. Do you understand that? I understand you've been planning to harm your father for 6 months. Tyler's voice cracked. And I'm on tape agreeing to help. But I also have you explaining how you ended Victoria's life 7 years ago. My vision blurred. I gripped the edge of the desk, forcing myself to breathe. Victoria, my first wife. She'd been gone 7 years, a tragic accident on our sailboat, they'd said. engine failure, carbon monoxide leak. The Coast Guard had ruled it accidental. I'd mourned her, blamed myself for not maintaining the boat properly, and now, you're threatening me. Meredith's laugh was hollow. With what recordings you can't use without incriminating yourself, I'm not threatening. Tyler sounded exhausted. I'm telling you I'm done. Delete the plan. Leave your father alone. Or I go to the authorities and we both go to prison. Silence, long and cold. Then Meredith, you won't. You're too weak. You've always been too weak. Try me. Another pause. I could hear her breathing slow and controlled. Fine, she said finally. We'll talk when you get back. Where are you? What, Manhattan, legal conference. I'm back Sunday night. Good. We'll meet then. Face to face, no phones. Agreed. The call ended. Silence filled the room again. I sat frozen, staring at my notes. Tyler recordings July to December. Mentions Victoria. Complicit but wants out. Returns Sunday night. My hands were shaking. Tyler had been part of it. He'd known. He'd agreed to help Meredith harm me. But he'd also had the foresight or the conscience to record her. And if he had proof that Meredith was involved in Victoria's death, I closed my eyes, forcing down the wave of grief and rage. I couldn't afford emotion right now. I needed strategy. Tyler was evidence, a witness, a confession on tape. But he was also vulnerable. Meredith was right, that he'd incriminated himself. If I contacted him now, he might panic, delete the recordings, lawyer up. I needed to wait. Gather my own proof first, then approach him with leverage. I opened my phone and called Clare. She answered on the second ring. Nathan, are you okay? I'm fine. My voice was steadier than I felt. Listen, I need you to stay at the hotel a few more days. Don't tell anyone where you are, not even Meredith. What's going on? Tyler has recordings. 6 months of Meredith planning. I caught myself. Planning something bad. He's involved, but he wants out. He's coming back Sunday night. Silence. Then quietly, Tyler knew. Yes? And Victoria, her voice broke. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. I rubbed my eyes, exhausted. For now, stay safe. I'll call you tomorrow. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise. I ended the call and stared at the laptop screen, my mind racing. Tyler had been complicit, but he'd also kept evidence. That made him both a liability and an asset. If I played this right, I could turn him. Offer him immunity in exchange for testimony. The recordings would corroborate everything, my surveillance footage, the pill swap, Trevor's involvement. But first I needed to see what Meredith did next. I opened my notebook and wrote quickly. Plan wait for Tyler's return Sunday night. Gather more footage. Approach Tyler Monday/Tuesday with deal recordings plus testimony in exchange for legal help/reduced charges. Use recordings to prove Meredith's intent re Victoria's death. I underlined Victoria's death twice, my hand trembling. At 11:52 p.m., the kitchen camera flickered. Movement in the living room. I leaned forward, watching the screen. Meredith entered first, still wearing her coat. Preston Vance followed, holding a tablet device. They sat on the couch. Meredith's face was pale, tight with anger. Tyler has recordings, she said. Preston's expression didn't change. How much? 6 months, everything. Does he have Victoria? Almost. He says he does. Preston leaned back, considering. Then we move up the timeline. This weekend. Before Tyler gets back. Meredith nodded slowly. Agreed. I hit the record button, my hands shaking. They were planning to end my life. This weekend. And I had less than 48 hours to stop them. 12:34 a.m. I sat in the dark of that motel room 25 miles from my house. Headphones pressed tight against my ears. The room smelled like stale cigarettes and industrial cleaner. Someone had tried to mask decades of smoke with lemon disinfectant and failed. The air conditioner rattled in the window, blowing lukewarm air that did nothing to cut the humidity. My back ached from hours hunched over the laptop, and my eyes burned from staring at the screen. But I didn't move. The hacked listening device transmitted every sound from my kitchen: the creak of a chair, the soft clink of glass on wood, and then voices. Whispers, barely audible. But the bug Meredith had planted was high-end, designed to pick up conversation from across a room, and I heard every word. Meredith's voice low and careful. "We can't wait for Tyler. He's a liability now." Agreed. Preston Vance's baritone calm as ever. "But the pills should have worked by now. Why is Clare still alive?" A pause. Then Meredith, dismissive, "She only took one dose before the hospital." "Bad luck. I'm bad luck." Preston's tone sharpened. "We don't have room for bad luck, Meredith. Your father could suspect something. He doesn't." Meredith's voice was cold, certain. "He's too busy playing caretaker. He has no idea." I gripped the edge of the sticky desk, my jaw tight. No idea, if only she knew. "So what's the backup?" Preston asked. "Sunday night, the wine cellar." My breath caught. "The old wine rack." Meredith continued, her voice matter-of-fact. 800 pounds of oak and bottles. If it falls on him, it'll look like an accident. He's always down there reorganizing. No one will question it. I opened a second window on my laptop, pulling up the photos I'd taken of the cellar 2 years ago when I'd moved the rack into place. Heavy French oak, 7 feet tall, 6 feet wide, 12 shelves deep. The previous owner, a diplomat who'd lived through the Cold War, had left it behind when he moved. It wasn't bolted to the wall. I'd meant to anchor it but never had. 800 pounds, Meredith had said. She was right. Maybe more with the bottles. And if he survives... Preston's voice pulled me back. Meredith's laugh was soft, almost amused. "He won't. I've measured the angle. The rack sits on a tile floor, no grip. One good push at the base and the whole thing tips forward. The top shelf will hit him first, then the rest follows. The impact will be fatal." Instant. I stared at the photo on my screen. She was right about the physics. The center of gravity was high. A hard shove at the bottom would send the whole structure forward like a falling tree. If I were standing in front of it, I closed the window. "What about Clare?" Preston's voice was flat, businesslike. "Collateral." Meredith's tone didn't waver. "If she's there, she goes too. 2 birds, 1 stone. And Tyler? Tyler's in New York. Perfect alibi. The conference doesn't end until Monday. Trevor leaves Sunday morning, no witnesses, no loose ends." Preston exhaled slowly. "You've thought this through." "I always do." A pause. Then quieter. "I've done this before, Preston. It works." My entire body went cold. "The boat." Preston's voice dropped almost a whisper. "Accidents happen." Meredith's voice was ice. "Trust me." The world stopped. The boat. Victoria, my first wife. Dead 7 years. A sunny June afternoon on our sailboat, the 2 of us anchored off the coast, drinking wine and watching the gulls. I'd gone below to check the engine. It had been sputtering. And when I came back up, she was gone. Unconscious in the cabin, slumped over the table. I'd called the Coast Guard, started CPR, but she was already gone. Carbon monoxide, they said. Faulty engine ventilation. Mechanical failure. I'd blamed myself for months. For not maintaining the boat properly. For suggesting we go out that day. For not noticing the symptoms sooner. The insurance company had paid out without question. The Coast Guard had closed the case. The funeral had been quiet, dignified. Meredith had cried at the service, genuine tears, I'd thought. She'd held my hand and told me, "Dad, I miss her too." Lies. All of it. "Accidents happen, trust me." I pressed my palms against my eyes, forcing down the wave of rage and grief threatening to break through. Victoria's laugh, the way she hummed old jazz standards while cooking, the way she'd curl up beside me on the couch with a book and read aloud, doing voices for the characters. Gone. Stolen. And I'd never suspected, not once. I'd mourned her. I'd kept her photograph on my desk for 7 years. I'd named a charity foundation after her, thinking I was honoring her memory. And my daughter, the child Victoria had raised, had loved, had ended her life. My hands were shaking. I still forced myself to breathe, like I'd taught myself in courtroom cross-examinations, when a witness said something that made me want to scream. Slow breath in. Hold, slow breath out. I hit the save button, uploading the recording to 3 separate cloud accounts. One personal, one anonymous, one tied to a backup email I'd created years ago for legal work. If something happened to me, the recordings would still exist. The truth would still exist. On the screen, the timestamp read 1:02 a.m. Preston's voice again. Sunday night then. What time? 10 p.m. I'll text him, ask him to meet me in the cellar. Say I need help moving something for Clare. He'll come. And you're sure about the angle? Positive. I've been in that cellar a dozen times. The rack isn't bolted, previous owner left it freestanding. One good push at the base and it tips. 800 pounds of momentum. There's no surviving that. What about cameras? Preston asked. If he's been paranoid enough to keep Clare in a hotel, there are no cameras. Meredith's voice was confident. I checked. He's old-fashioned. Doesn't trust technology. I almost laughed. Almost. Fine. Preston sounded satisfied. Sunday night, 10 p.m. I'll be nearby in case you need help with cleanup. I won't. Meredith's chair scraped against the floor. This'll be clean. Just like last time. Just like last time. Victoria's face flashed in my mind. Her smile, her laugh, the way she'd squeeze my hand 3 times to say I love you without words. Gone. At 1:17 a.m., I heard the front door close. Silence filled the kitchen. I pulled off the headphones and sat in the dark, staring at nothing. The air conditioner rattled. A car passed outside, headlights sweeping across the thin motel curtains. Sunday night, 2 days. Meredith planned to end my life in my own wine cellar, using a piece of furniture I'd installed myself. She'd done this before to Victoria, to my wife, and she'd gotten away with it. Not this time. I opened my notebook and wrote quickly, my handwriting shaky. Meredith confession wine rack, Sunday 10 p.m. 800 pounds, tile floor tipping angle calculated. Mentions Victoria done this before. Confession recorded. 3 backups. Preston involved will be nearby for cleanup. I underlined Victoria 3 times, my vision blurring. Then my phone buzzed. A text. Trevor's number, the burner phone I'd slipped into his jacket pocket yesterday. The message was short. Mr. Cross, I heard everything through the vent. I'm terrified. What do? I stared at the screen. Trevor had heard. The old house had air vents connecting every floor. I'd forgotten about them. He'd been 2 floors up with the door closed, and 2 sleeping children. But he'd heard Meredith and Preston planning my death. And now he was asking me what to do. I typed quickly, stay calm, act normal. Sunday morning, take the kids and leave as planned. I'll handle the rest. You're safe. I promise. I hit send, then set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. 2 days. Meredith thought she was hunting me. She had no idea I'd already set the trap. 1:34 a.m., I parked 3 blocks from my house and killed the engine. The street was silent. I walked through the back alley and unlocked the kitchen door. Trevor was standing at the counter, phone in hand, face pale. He jumped when he saw me. Jesus! He stepped back, eyes wide. You're a Nathan Cross, I said quietly, closing the door. The real one. Trevor's mouth opened, closed. Meredith said you were on a business trip. I know. I kept my voice calm. She paid you $15,000 to house sit and pretend to be Tyler. His face went white. I didn't know she was planning to. I swear. I know. I pulled out a chair, gestured for him to sit. You're not a criminal, Trevor. You're a father trying to win custody. But Meredith is planning to end my life Sunday night. And if you're still here when it happens, you and those children upstairs could get caught in the crossfire. Trevor sank into the chair, hands shaking. Oh, God. Oh, God, I heard them talking through the vent. I didn't know what to do. You did the right thing texting me. I leaned forward. Now tell me how you got involved. He swallowed hard. Custody battle. My ex says I can't afford proper childcare. I've got $12,000 in legal fees I can't pay. And my lawyer said if I don't come up with the money by next month, he's withdrawing. And Meredith found you how? Private investigator. Trevor's voice was thin. She tracked me down 3 weeks ago. Said she needed someone to house sit while her father was traveling. Said I looked exactly like her husband. And she wanted someone who could blend in. Offered $15,000, 5 up front, 10 when done. I thought it was weird, but I needed the money. I nodded slowly. Did she tell you what she was planning? No. Trevor shook his head violently. She said you were traveling for work, that she just needed someone to keep the house occupied. She said it was for insurance. I swear I had no idea she was planning to. His voice broke. I have kids. I believe you. And I did. I'd spent 30 years reading people. Trevor wasn't lying. He was terrified, complicit maybe, but not a threat. Just a desperate man who'd made a bad decision. Here's what happens, I said. You act normal. Sunday morning, you take Cole and Lily and leave just like Meredith told you. But before you go, I'm wiring you $20,000. Right now. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, turned the screen toward him. Give me your account number. Trevor stared. You're what? 20,000. It'll hit your account by morning. You pay your lawyer, fight for your kids, and when this is over, you testify about what you heard. Agreed. His eyes filled with tears. I can't. Yes, you can. I kept my voice firm. Take the money. Get your children back. Help me put Meredith in prison. That's the deal. Trevor gave me his account number, hands shaking. I entered the transfer legal consultation fee and hit confirm. Processes by 7 a.m., I said. When this is over, my attorney Malcolm Turner will contact you. I wrote the number on a napkin. If anything happens before Sunday, call him. He'll have copies of everything. You'll be protected. So will your kids. Trevor nodded, clutching the napkin. Then one more thing, I said. Meredith's planning to lure me into the wine cellar Sunday at 10 p.m. She'll try to push the wine rack over on me, make it look like an accident. Jesus. Trevor's face went gray. I'm going to let her think she'll succeed, but I won't be where she expects. I stood. There's a hidden room down there, a panic room. The previous owner was a diplomat during the Cold War, paranoid about attack. He built a bunker under the wine cellar. I found it 2 years ago during repairs. I gestured for Trevor to follow. We walked down the basement stairs quietly. The wine cellar was cool and dark, the oak rack looming against the far wall. I moved to the corner where a section of concrete looked smoother. I knelt and pressed my palm against a hidden seam. A panel clicked, and a 3x3 section lifted on hydraulic hinges, revealing a steel ladder descending into darkness. Trevor stared. Holy... Panic room, I said. Steel walls, ventilation, chemical toilet sink with a 50-gallon water tank, LED lights on battery backup. Designed to survive a tornado for 72 hours. I climbed down. Trevor followed, eyes wide. The room was small, 8 by 10 feet, but functional. Shelves lined one wall, stocked with canned food and water. A narrow cot sat against another. A steel door led back to the ladder shaft. But now it was more than just a bunker. It was my command center. I'd set up a folding table and chair in the corner. My laptop sat open, power cord snaking to a backup battery. The external hard drive was connected, blinking softly. My phone charger, bottled water, and granola bars were arranged on the shelf. This is where I'll be," I said. "Sunday night when Meredith comes down here, she'll think I'm standing in front of that wine rack. But I'll be down here watching on camera, recording every word." I gestured to the laptop screen. 5 camera feeds glowed in the dim light living room, kitchen, hallway, office upstairs. "I've been watching from a motel 25 miles away for the last 4 days," I said. "But Sunday night I'll be here, hidden beneath my own home, waiting." Trevor shook his head. "This is insane. It's survival." I climbed back up. Trevor followed. I lowered the panel. It clicked shut, seamless. "Sunday morning," I said. "You leave. Don't tell Meredith anything. Take the kids and go." "Where?" "Anywhere. Hotel, your parents, doesn't matter. Just get out of town until Monday." Trevor nodded. "Okay. I can do that." "Good." I glanced at my watch. "Almost 2 a.m. Get some sleep. Act normal tomorrow." He hesitated. "Mr. Cross, thank you. For the money. For believing me. Thank your kids," I said. "They're the reason you're still a good man." Trevor headed upstairs. I waited until I heard his door close. Then I descended back into the wine cellar. 2:47 a.m. I climbed down into the panic room one last time before Sunday, just to make sure everything was ready. The steel door closed behind me with a solid thunk. I locked it from the inside, 3 heavy bolts, each one sliding into place with a satisfying click. The LED lights flickered on, casting everything in cold, white light. I sat at the folding table and opened my laptop. All 5 camera feeds were live. Living room dark, empty. Kitchen dark, empty. Hallway dark, empty. Office dark, empty. Upstairs, Trevor climbing into bed. Cole and Lily curled on either side of him. The house went dark. I leaned back against the cold concrete wall, exhausted. Sunday night, 36 hours. I'd spent the last 4 days hiding in a motel, watching my house from 25 miles away. But now I was back, hidden beneath my own home in a bunker built by a paranoid diplomat 40 years ago, surrounded by steel and concrete and darkness. Waiting. Ready. At 7:04 a.m. my phone buzzed. Meredith. I answered, keeping my voice soft, tired. "Hello, Dad." Her voice was bright, concerned. "I've been so worried. Can I come over for breakfast? I want to check on you." I forced my voice to sound weak, strained. "Of course, sweetheart. I'm a little tired, but I'd love to see you." "Perfect. I'll be there in an hour." "Love you, Dad." "Love you too." I ended the call and stared at the bunker ceiling. She was coming, and I was ready. Sunday morning, 8 a.m. I sat in the bunker, staring at the laptop screen. The camera feeds showed an empty house. Trevor was upstairs with the kids, moving quietly, packing. My phone buzzed, a notification from the kitchen camera. Audio pickup. Meredith's voice via text-to-speech from Trevor's phone. "Meet me at Riverside Park at 9. Don't come back to the house. Dad might be home soon. I'll bring the rest of your money." I exhaled slowly. She was keeping Trevor away. Smart. On screen, Trevor read the message, his face tight. He glanced at the ceiling toward the wine cellar below, then picked up Cole, and Lily grabbed the diaper bag and headed for the door. 9:14 a.m. I watched the driveway camera. Trevor loaded the kids into the silver sedan Meredith had loaned him, buckled them in, and drove away. I switched to my phone, tracking his location via the burner I'd given him. He was heading east toward Riverside Park, a small neighborhood green space with a playground and picnic tables 2 miles from my house. I couldn't see the park, but Trevor had agreed to text me updates. At 9:26 a.m., my phone buzzed. "She's here, giving me the envelope now." I imagined the scene, Meredith in her car window, down handing over a thick manila envelope. 10,000 in cash, just like she'd promised. Trevor would take it. Thank her, maybe ask one last question. My phone buzzed again. She said, "Forget you ever met me." I asked if you were okay. She laughed and said, "He'll be fine. Drive safe." "I'm leaving now. Kids are safe." "Good luck, Mr. Cross." I closed my eyes, exhaling. Trevor was gone. Cole and Lily were safe. Whatever happened next, they wouldn't be caught in it. At 10:52 a.m., my phone rang. "Meredith," I answered, keeping my voice soft, tired. "Hello, Duck." Her voice was bright, concerned. "I'm so glad I caught you. I stopped by the house earlier to drop off some groceries, and I noticed water in the wine cellar. There's a puddle near the back wall. I think a pipe might have burst." I frowned, playing along. "A pipe? I didn't notice anything yesterday." "It's getting worse, Dad. I'm worried about the foundation. Can you check it? I'd hate for the whole cellar to flood." I hesitated, letting silence stretch. "I'm not feeling great today, sweetheart. Can it wait until tomorrow?" "Dad, it's really bad." Her voice sharpened, urgent. "The water's spreading. If we don't fix it now, you could have thousands in damage. Please. I'll come help you. I can be there in an hour." I exhaled, slow and shaky. "All right, I'll meet you down there. 1 hour. "Perfect. Thank you, Dad. I love you." "Love you too." I ended the call and stared at the phone. She was good. The concern in her voice was flawless. If I hadn't heard her planning my death 2 nights ago, I would have believed every word. 12:30 p.m. Time to set the final piece. I opened my contacts and dialed 911. The line clicked open immediately. 911, what's your emergency?" I kept my voice calm, clear. "This is former federal judge Nathan Cross, badge number Juliet 7731. I'm about to be attacked by my daughter at my home. I am going to leave this line open. My address is already in your system. I need units dispatched, but they must hold position 2 blocks away, no sirens until you hear violence. I need to record her confession on tape." A pause. Then the operator, her voice steady and professional. "Understood, Judge Cross. I'm flagging this as a priority judicial emergency. Units are being dispatched now. They will hold at the perimeter and await your signal. We are listening." "Thank you." I took a breath. "She'll be here in approximately 15 minutes. I'm placing my phone in my shirt pocket now. The microphone will remain active. If you hear a struggle, or if I say the word help, send units in immediately." "Affirmative, Judge. We have your location. Officers are 2 minutes out and will stage 2 blocks west. Stay safe, sir." I placed the phone in my shirt pocket, screen down speaker set to low volume so I could hear faint confirmations from the operator, but Meredith wouldn't notice. The microphone was pointed up toward my face. Every word I spoke would be recorded. I glanced at the laptop. All 5 cameras were recording to the cloud. Backup files were stored on the external hard drive in front of me. If something went wrong, if Meredith somehow got to me before the police arrived, the evidence would still exist. I checked my watch. 12:43 p.m. On the driveway camera, Meredith's car pulled up. She got out, glanced at the house, and walked toward the front door. I watched her disappear from the driveway view, then reappear on the living room camera. She moved through the house quickly, checking rooms, kitchen, hallway, my office, looking for me. Then she headed for the basement door. I heard her footsteps on the stairs faint through the bunker's steel walls. "Dad." Her voice muffled. "Dad, are you down here?" I closed the laptop and moved to the far corner of the bunker, where a section of the steel wall had a hidden seam, a narrow passage the previous owner had built as a secondary escape route. It led behind the old furnace through a crawl space and into the basement storage area on the other side of the wine cellar. I pushed the panel open and squeezed through, pulling it shut behind me. The passage was tight, dark, and smelled like dust and rust. I crawled forward, my knees scraping concrete, until I reached the storage room exit. I pushed the panel open and emerged behind a stack of old boxes and a broken chair. From here, I could see the wine cellar entrance 20 feet away, Meredith's shadow moving just inside. I stood, brushed off my pants, and walked deliberately across the basement floor, my footsteps loud on the concrete. I wanted her to hear me. I wanted her to think I was coming from upstairs, not from the bunker. Dad, Meredith's voice closer now. Is that you? I reached the base of the wine cellar stairs and called up my voice, weak, trusting. I'm coming down, sweetheart. Where's the leak? I started down the stairs, each step slow and careful, one hand on the railing. And at the bottom, in the dim light of the cellar, I saw her, Meredith, my daughter, standing beside the towering oak wine rack, her face calm, her eyes cold. She smiled. Right here, Dad. Just a quick note before we continue. Parts of the upcoming story are creatively adapted and may not reflect real events. If you're enjoying this, feel free to share and subscribe for more. But if it's not for you, you can stop watching here anytime. 12:54 p.m. I descended the wine cellar stairs, one hand on the wooden railing, moving slowly. My right knee ached, an old injury from a hiking accident years ago, and I played it up, limping slightly, breathing harder than necessary. Meredith stood near the back wall beside the towering oak wine rack. 800 pounds of wood iron brackets and glass bottles 7 feet tall and 6 feet wide. It loomed in the dim light of the single bulb overhead, casting long shadows across the stone floor. Where's the leak, sweetheart? I kept my voice weak, concerned, the voice of a tired old man. She pointed toward the floor behind the rack, her expression earnest. Right there, Dad. See the water's pooling near the foundation. We need to move the rack to check the pipe. I stepped closer, squinting at the floor. There was no water. Of course there wasn't. But I played along, leaning forward, one hand braced against the rack's heavy oak frame. I don't see. Meredith moved. Fast. She stepped behind the rack, positioning herself at the base, and without a word, without hesitation, she lifted both feet and kicked. Not a push. A kick. Both legs full force, aimed at the bottom corner where the rack met the tile floor. The physics were perfect. The rack wasn't bolted to the wall, a mistake I'd always meant to fix, but never had. It sat on a slight incline, the tile floor slick and offering no grip. The weight was top-heavy, all those bottles, Bordeaux, Cabernet, Pinot, lined up on the upper shelves. When Meredith kicked the base, the center of gravity shifted instantly. The entire structure tipped forward, 800 pounds of oak and glass falling like a tree. I threw myself to the left, my arms flailing, but I wasn't fast enough. The top corner of the rack, a solid oak beam 4 inches thick, caught my right leg, just below the knee. The sound was immediate and terrible. A crack, sharp and wet like a branch snapping under weight. My tibia shattering. I screamed. The rack slammed into the floor with a deafening crash, and 4 bottles exploded on impact. Red wine erupted across the tile, spraying the walls, mixing with the dark crimson liquid seeping through my torn pant leg. Pain roared through me, white-hot and blinding, radiating from my leg, up through my spine. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. The rack pinned my leg, the weight crushing bone and muscle into the stone floor. I tried to pull free, clawing at the tile, but the agony was so intense that my vision went black at the edges. In my shirt pocket, the phone was still recording. The 911 operator was hearing everything, my scream, the crash, the ragged gasps as I fought to stay conscious. Meredith stood over me, breathing hard, her chest rising and falling, but her face was calm. Eerily calm. You should have passed with that old woman. She said, her voice low and cold, like she was discussing the weather. 7 years ago on that boat. You were supposed to be down in the cabin with her when the carbon monoxide kicked in, but you went up on deck to check the engine. You survived. That wasn't supposed to happen. I stared up at her, my vision swimming. You. This house. She continued, her voice steady, relentless. The Victoria Cross Memorial Foundation, the savings, the investments. All of it should have been mine. But you married Clare 2 years later, and suddenly I'm watching my inheritance get divided up, watching you play happy family with some woman who isn't even my real mother. Do you know what that feels like? Watching everything that should be yours get handed to a stranger. You took her from me. My voice was hoarse, shaking barely above a whisper. Victoria, you ended your own mother's life. Meredith's expression didn't change. No flicker of guilt. No hesitation. She was weak, Meredith said flatly. She was always weak, crying over every little thing, worried about everyone else's feelings, just like you, Dad. Weak. She reached down and picked up an intact wine bottle from the floor, a heavy Bordeaux dark green glass, still full. She hefted it, testing the weight, her fingers wrapping around the neck. I should have finished this 7 years ago, she said quietly, almost to herself. She raised the bottle over her head, and then sirens, loud piercing, getting closer by the second. Meredith froze, the bottle still raised. The basement door burst open with a crash. Heavy footsteps pounded down the stairs, boots on wood. Police dropped the weapon, hands in the air. 3 officers flooded the cellar, weapons drawn, flashlights cutting through the dim light. Meredith dropped the bottle, it shattered on the tile glass, and wine spraying, and slowly raised her hands, her face blank, emotionless. One officer tackled her, driving her forward against the stone wall, pulling her arms behind her back. Another kicked the bottle shards aside and moved to me, kneeling beside the wreckage of the wine rack. Sir, can you hear me? Ambulance is en route. Stay still. Don't try to move. I nodded weakly, gasping for air. My leg felt like it was being crushed in a vice. My shoulder, I'd landed on it wrong when I fell, throbbed with a deep, sickening ache. Dislocation, probably. Blood and wine soaked my clothes, warm and sticky. Got her secured, the officer holding Meredith called out. He cuffed her wrists, steel clicking into place, pulled her upright and turned her toward the wall. His voice was loud, formal. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. Meredith said nothing. Her face was calm, almost serene. She looked at me once briefly, and then looked away as if I were already gone. Paramedics arrived within 2 minutes. They lifted the wine rack off my leg. I screamed again, couldn't help it, and immediately went to work. One cut away my pant leg with shears, revealing the damaged, jagged bone visible through torn skin, blood pooling on the tile, the leg bent at an unnatural angle, such as open tibia fracture. One paramedic said into his radio, his voice clipped and professional. Significant blood loss, possible shoulder dislocation, multiple lacerations. We need a gurney stat. They stabilized my leg with an inflatable splint. The pressure excruciating, and gave me an injection, morphine maybe, but it barely touched the pain. They strapped me onto a backboard, secured my neck, and within minutes I was being carried up the basement stairs, through my house, and out the front door into blinding afternoon sunlight. I caught a glimpse of Meredith as they loaded me into the ambulance. She was standing beside a patrol car, hands cuffed behind her back, 2 officers flanking her. Her face was expressionless. No tears, no fear, no anger, just cold. I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking badly and scrolled to Claire's number saved under her hospital alias. I typed slowly, my vision blurring. It's over, she's arrested, I need you. I hit send as they closed the ambulance doors. Inside, a woman in a dark blazer sat on the bench beside the gurney. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, short brown hair, detective's badge clipped to her belt. To Mr. Cross, she said, her voice calm but firm. I'm Detective Sarah Brennan. We have the 911 recording. We have your camera footage, dispatch is pulling it from the cloud right now, but I need the full story. Timeline evidence, everyone involved. How deep does this go? I closed my eyes, exhausted, the morphine starting to blur the edges of my thoughts. Deeper than you think, I said quietly. The ambulance lurched forward, sirens wailing, and for the first time in a week, I let myself breathe. 6:17 p.m., 5 hours after the attack. I woke to the smell of disinfectant and the steady beep of a heart monitor. The hospital room was dim, the overhead lights turned low. My right leg was suspended in a cast from hip to ankle, elevated by a pulley system. My left shoulder was immobilized in a padded sling. An IV drip fed into my arm, and a morphine pump sat on the bedside table, its cord trailing to a button, clutched loosely in my hand. Claire sat in the chair beside me, her face streaked with tears, her hand wrapped around mine. "Nathan," she whispered when she saw my eyes open. "Oh, God, Nathan." "I'm okay," I said, though my voice came out hoarse and weak. "You're safe. That's all that matters." She nodded, squeezing my hand tighter, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. At 7:30 p.m., the door opened. Detective Sarah Brennan stepped in first, followed by a man I didn't recognize. Tall, mid-40s, graying temples, dark suit, FBI badge clipped to his belt. "Mr. Cross," Brennan said quietly. "This is Special Agent Michael Reeves, Federal Bureau of Investigation. We need to talk." I nodded, shifting slightly in the bed. Pain shot through my shoulder and leg, but I gritted my teeth and pushed through it. Reeves pulled a chair closer, his expression serious. "We've charged your daughter with attempt to end your life, but we need your evidence, all of it, if we're going to make this case airtight." I gestured toward the small rolling table beside the bed. "My phone. Call Malcolm Turner, my attorney. He has copies of everything, but I can give you the originals." Claire reached into the bag at her feet and pulled out the items I'd asked her to retrieve from the panic room earlier: my laptop, the external hard drive, a spiral notebook filled with handwritten timeline notes, and a slip of paper with Trevor Palmer's burner phone number. I handed the laptop to Reeves. 5 hidden cameras, all footage uploaded to the cloud in real time. Username and password are taped to the back. Reeves opened the laptop, peeled off the post-it note, and began typing. "External hard drive," I continued, pointing. "Backup of all recordings organized by date and time. My notes, timeline, evidence, log names of everyone involved, and Trevor Palmer's contact information. He's the man Meredith hired to impersonate her husband. He'll testify. I've already wired him $20,000 to cover his legal fees and cooperation." Brennan pulled out a notepad and started writing. "Walk us through the key evidence." I took a breath, trying to organize my thoughts through the fog of pain medication. Day 3. Friday, January 9th. Meredith entered my house while I was at the motel. She swapped Claire's blood pressure medication with pills laced with aconitine. The kitchen camera caught the entire thing. She also planted a listening device. I hacked it later that night. Reeves looked up. "You hacked her bug. $15 consumer software," I said. "I'm a federal judge. I know people." Brennan almost smiled. Day 4. Saturday, January 10th, 1:30 a.m. Meredith and Preston Vance met in my kitchen. They discussed the wine cellar plan, using the 800-pound rack to end my life and make it look like an accident. The hacked bug recorded every word. She also confessed to ending Victoria's life 7 years ago, said she'd done this before, and it worked. Reeves leaned forward. "Victoria, your first wife?" "Yes. She passed on our sailboat 7 years ago. Carbon monoxide leak. The Coast Guard ruled it an accident. But Meredith admitted she caused it, sabotaged the engine ventilation." Reeves and Brennan exchanged a look. Day 5. Sunday, January 11th. The wine cellar attack. I recorded everything: cameras, phone, 911 call. When Meredith kicked that rack over on me, she confessed again, said I should have passed with that old woman, that the house and foundation money should have been hers, that Victoria was weak. The 911 operator heard the entire confession in real time. "We have the recording," Brennan confirmed. "Dispatch forwarded it to us an hour ago." Reeves closed the laptop and looked at me. "Preston Vance. Who is he?" "Disbarred attorney," I said. "Meredith's partner romantically and criminally. He helped plan everything. He has a key to my house. 3 weeks ago, he broke in and stole financial documents from my office. He was also present during the planning conversation on day 4. We'll need an address. So Malcolm has it. Preston practiced corporate fraud out of an office in Atlanta. He's been involved in at least 3 elder abuse schemes that I know of. Reeves made a note. Anyone else involved? I hesitated. Dr. Raymond Pierce, Clare's primary care physician. He prescribed her blood pressure medication, the pills Meredith swapped. I think he's involved. You should check his finances. Reeves nodded. We will. By 9:14 p.m., Clare had dozed off in the chair beside me, and I was drifting in and out of consciousness, the morphine pulling me under. My phone buzzed. A text from Reeves. Preston Vance in custody. Atlanta field office raided his office. Forged wills, fake power of attorney documents, foundation transfer papers. He's talking. I closed my eyes, relief washing over me. At 11:47 p.m. Another text. Dr. Pierce arrested. Found $50,000 offshore deposit from Preston Vance 3 weeks ago. Pierce falsified medical records for 15 elderly patients. Elder abuse ring. He was paid to declare you mentally incompetent. I stared at the screen, my chest tight. 15 patients. 15 families manipulated and destroyed, just like mine almost was. The next morning, Monday, January 12th day, 6 Reeves called. Meredith's arraignment was this morning, he said. Charged with ending Victoria's life in the first-degree attempt to end your life in the first-degree conspiracy, elder abuse, and fraud. Judge denied bail. She'll be held pending trial. Good, I said quietly. Accusation. We played the wine cellar recording in court. Her voice clear as day. You should have passed with that old woman. The prosecutor said it's the most damning confession he's heard in 20 years. I didn't respond. I couldn't. One more thing, Reeves continued. Tyler Palmer, Meredith's husband, called me this morning from New York. He says he has recordings. 6 months' worth. Conversations between him and Meredith about the plan, about Victoria, about the foundation money. He wants immunity in exchange for testimony. I opened my eyes, staring at the hospital ceiling. What do you think? I think he's complicit, Reeves said bluntly. But I also think his recordings could put Meredith away for life. If he testifies, we can corroborate everything Victoria's passing, the financial motive, the conspiracy timeline. Without him, it's your word and circumstantial evidence. With him, it's airtight. Then give him immunity, I said. Arrange a meeting. I want to hear what he has to say. Understood. I'll set it up. He paused. Mr. Cross, what you did setting that trap recording, everything, it was risky. But it worked. You saved your own life and probably a dozen others. Well done. I closed my eyes. Thank you, Agent Reeves. The line went dead. I set the phone down and looked at Clare, still asleep in the chair, her hand resting on the edge of my bed. Meredith was in custody. Preston and Dr. Pierce were arrested. The elder abuse ring was exposed, and Tyler was ready to talk. For the first time in a week, I let myself believe it was really over. Monday, January 19th, 8 days after the attack, I sat across from Tyler Palmer in a windowless conference room at FBI headquarters. He looked terrible. Gaunt, dark circles under his eyes, his hands shaking as he set a burner phone on the table between us. He'd flown in from New York that morning, and the weight of 6 months of guilt seemed to press down on his shoulders like a physical thing. Agent Reeves sat to my left, a digital recorder running on the table. Detective Brennan stood near the door, arms crossed. Tyler looked at me, his voice barely above a whisper. I knew about the forged documents. I knew about the plan to take over the foundation. But I swear I didn't know about Victoria until 2 months ago. Tell me everything, I said quietly. He picked up the burner phone, his hands trembling. I started recording in July. Meredith was acting strange, secretive. I thought she was having an affair, which she was with Preston, but it was more than that. I used this phone to record our conversations. I kept it hidden. 5 recordings. 6 months. He pressed play on the first file. July 2024, 6 months ago. Meredith's voice clear and cold. We need to accelerate the old man's decline. 6 to 8 weeks. If we wait any longer, Claire will get suspicious. Preston's voice. What about the physician? Is he on board? Meredith. Pierce will do whatever I pay him to do. He's already agreed to declare Dad incompetent if we need it. Tyler stopped the recording. That's when I knew it was serious. But I didn't know how serious. He played the second file. September 2024. Tyler's voice hesitant. Meredith, I found the papers. The fake will. What are you doing? A long pause. Then Meredith, her voice flat. I ended Mom's life, Tyler, 7 years ago. I sabotaged the boat engine. Carbon monoxide filled the cabin. She passed in the water before the Coast Guard arrived. Dad was up on deck adjusting the sails. He never suspected a thing. Tyler's recorded voice shaking. You what? Meredith. She was in the way, just like Dad is now. The recording stopped. I sat frozen, my chest tight. Hearing her admit it again, calmly, casually, felt like being hit all over again. Tyler's face was pale. That's when I knew I had to keep recording. For proof. For protection. He played the third file. October 2024. Preston's voice. If the wine cellar plan doesn't work, we go to the backup. House fire. Electrical malfunction. He's old, no one will question it. Meredith. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Fires are messy. Tyler stopped it. I should have gone to the police then. But I was terrified. He played the fourth file. November 2024. Tyler's voice angry. I'm done, Meredith. I'm not helping you anymore. This is wrong. Meredith cold. You're done when I say you're done. Or do you want me to tell the SEC about the $200,000 you embezzled from your firm? I have the paper trail, Tyler. You'll spend 20 years in federal prison. Silence. Then Tyler's voice defeated. What do you want from me? Meredith, your silence and your alibi when the time comes. Tyler set the phone down, his hands shaking. She had me trapped. I'd made mistakes, financial mistakes, and she knew it. She used it against me. He played the fifth and final recording. December 2024. This one was different. No conversation. Just Meredith's voice slurred, muttering to herself. Drunk, probably. Meredith. Mom was too weak, crying all the time, worried about everyone's feelings, and Dad's just as bad. Pathetic. They don't deserve that money. They never did. It should all be mine. All of it. The recording ended. The room was silent. Tyler's face crumpled. I was a coward. I kept these recordings to protect myself, but I let her poison Clare. I let her try to end Dad's life. I could have stopped this months ago, and I didn't. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said quietly, "But you're here now, and these recordings will put her away for life." Tyler nodded, tears streaming down his face. The door opened. A woman in her mid-40s stepped in sharp suit. Dark hair, pulled back, no-nonsense expression. District Attorney Rebecca Torres. Mr. Palmer. She said, her voice crisp and professional. The United States Attorney's Office is prepared to offer you a plea agreement. You'll plead guilty to conspiracy and obstruction in exchange for full cooperation testimony against Meredith Cross Palmer and Preston Vance. We're recommending 3 years in federal prison, followed by supervised release. Tyler looked at me. I nodded. I accept, he said quietly. Torres set a document on the table. Sign here. Your attorney will review the final terms, but this is binding. You testify, you serve your time, and you never contact Meredith or Preston again. Tyler signed. Reeves stood. We also have video testimony from Trevor Palmer. He's agreed to testify under witness protection. He confirms he was hired for $15,000, was unaware of the plan to end Mr. Cross's life, and left with his children before the attack occurred. His testimony corroborates the timeline and Meredith's intent. Torres nodded. Good. With Tyler's recordings, Trevor's testimony, and the physical evidence from the wine cellar, we have everything we need. She looked at me. Mr. Cross, these recordings give us first-degree charges for ending Victoria Cross's life. Meredith is now facing life in prison without the possibility of parole for that alone, not to mention the attempt on your life, conspiracy, elder abuse, and fraud. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. Victoria. Finally, after 7 years, the truth. Reeves handed me a manila folder. One more thing. Douglas Carr, Preston's accountant. We traced $1.2 million through offshore accounts in his name. Money laundering, wire fraud, conspiracy. We're bringing him in tomorrow morning. I opened the folder. Bank statements, transaction records, shell companies. Carr had been moving money for Preston, and by extension Meredith, for at least 2 years. How many people were involved in this? I asked quietly. At least 5, Reeves said. Meredith, Preston, Tyler, Dr. Pierce, and Carr. We're still investigating whether there are others. Torres closed her briefcase. The grand jury convenes next week. We'll have indictments for all of them. Meredith's trial is set for mid-February. It'll be a long process, Mr. Cross, but we're going to make sure she never sees the outside of a prison cell again. I looked at Tyler, still sitting across from me, his face buried in his hands. Thank you, I said quietly, for coming forward. I know it wasn't easy. He looked up, his eyes red. I should have done it sooner. Maybe, I said. But you did it. That's what matters now. Reeves stood. We're done here. Mr. Cross will be in touch. Tyler, your attorney, will contact you regarding sentencing. I stood slowly, my legs still stiff in the cast, and shook Reeves's hand. As I left the room, I glanced back at Tyler one last time. He looked broken, but he'd done the right thing in the end, and that would have to be enough. February 9th, 8:47 a.m. 5 weeks after the attack, the courtroom doors opened. For the first time in 6 weeks, I saw my daughter's face without a screen between us. Meredith sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, her hands cuffed in front of her, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. She looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner, her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a simple ponytail. But her eyes, those eyes, were the same. Cold. Empty. A void where a soul should have been. She glanced at me once briefly, and then looked away. Judge Harold Morrison entered, 68 years old, white-haired, stern-faced, a 30-year veteran of the bench. Everyone stood. Seated, he said, his voice flat and authoritative. We are here for the trial of Meredith Cross Palmer, charged with 12 felony counts, including ending the life of Victoria Cross, attempt to end the life of Nathan Cross, conspiracy, elder abuse, and fraud. Counsel, are you ready? District Attorney Rebecca Torres stood. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Meredith's defense attorney, Marcus Caldwell, late 50s, expensive suit, known for taking on difficult cases, stood as well. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Proceed with opening statements. Torres stepped forward, addressing the jury, 12 faces ranging from early 20s to late 60s, all watching intently. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Torres began, her voice calm but forceful. This is a case about a daughter who ended her own mother's life 7 years ago. A daughter who, when her father remarried, decided he too had to go. A daughter who conspired with her partner to steal $8 million from a charitable foundation established in her mother's memory. You will hear her voice, her own words, confessing to these acts. You will see video evidence of her actions. And by the end of this trial, you will have no doubt that Meredith Cross Palmer is guilty of every charge against her. She sat down. Caldwell stood buttoning his jacket. Ladies and gentlemen, Meredith Cross Palmer is not a monster. She is a woman suffering from undiagnosed mental illness, a woman traumatized by the loss of her mother, a woman who lived under the controlling influence of a powerful father, a federal judge who monitored her every move, who installed hidden cameras in his own home, who orchestrated a trap designed to destroy her. Yes, Meredith made mistakes, but those mistakes were born of desperation, not malice. We ask that you consider the full context of her actions before you render judgment. He sat. Judge Morrison nodded. The prosecution may call its first witness. The prosecution calls Nathan Cross. I stood slowly, my legs still stiff from the injury, and walked to the witness stand. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. For the next 3 hours, I recounted everything. Mrs. Hendrick's warning about the crying children, Clare's collapse, the aconitine poisoning, the decision to install cameras instead of calling the police, the discovery of Trevor, the hacked listening device, the midnight conversation between Meredith and Preston planning my end in the wine cellar, the panic room, the 911 call, the attack. Torres played the video evidence on a large screen. The jury watched Meredith enter my house, open Clare's pill bottle, and swap the medication with poisoned capsules. They watched her and Preston whispering in the kitchen at 1:30 a.m., discussing how to accelerate the old man's decline. They watched the wine cellar attack the rack, tipping my scream, Meredith standing over me with a wine bottle raised. One woman in the jury box started crying. Caldwell cross-examined me. Mr. Cross, you installed hidden cameras in your own home without telling anyone. You hacked a listening device. You manipulated your son-in-law into providing recordings. Isn't it true that you were suffering from paranoia and that all of this, he gestured at the screens, is simply the product of an overactive imagination fueled by grief? I looked at him calmly. I'm a former federal judge, Mr. Caldwell. I spent 30 years evaluating evidence and ensuring it was admissible in court. I knew exactly what I was doing. I installed those cameras because my wife had been poisoned, and I needed proof. I hacked that device because my daughter was planning to end my life, and I recorded everything because I knew no one would believe me without it. This isn't paranoia. It's survival. Caldwell sat down. On February 11th, the day 3 of the trial, Tyler took the stand. He looked thinner than he had at the FBI meeting, his eyes hollow. He swore in, sat down, and Torres handed him the burner phone. Mr. Palmer, please play the recordings for the jury. Tyler played all 5. July. We need to accelerate the old man's decline. September. I ended Mom's life. Sabotaged the boat engine. She passed in the water. Dad never suspected. October. If the wine cellar plan doesn't work, we go to backup. House fire. November. You're done when I say you're done. Or do you want me to tell the SEC about the $200,000 you embezzled? December. Mom was too weak. Dad too. They don't deserve that money. It should all be mine. The courtroom was silent. Meredith sat stone-faced, staring at the table. Tyler stepped down, and the defense called no witnesses. On February 20th, after 11 days of testimony, the jury retired to deliberate. 4 hours and 37 minutes later, they returned. Judge Morrison looked at the foreperson, a man in his 50s, gray suit, hands folded. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of ending the life of Victoria Cross in the first degree, how do you find guilty? On the charge of attempt to end the life of Nathan Cross in the first degree, guilty. All 12 counts. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Meredith didn't move, didn't react. She sat perfectly still, her face blank. Judge Morrison set the sentencing hearing for later that afternoon. At 4 p.m., he addressed Meredith directly. Ms. Cross-Palmer, you ended your own mother's life. You tried to end your father's life. You manipulated, deceived, and conspired to steal millions of dollars. You are a danger to society. This court sentences you to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the charge of ending Victoria Cross's life, plus 25 years consecutive for the attempt on Nathan Cross's life. You will spend the rest of your natural life in custody. He banged the gavel. Then he looked at me. Mr. Cross, do you wish to make a victim impact statement? I stood my hands gripping the railing in front of me. I don't forgive her, I said quietly. Forgiveness requires remorse, and she has none. What I feel is grief. Grief for the daughter I thought I had. Grief for the woman she could have been. But I will not mourn the person she chose to become. I sat down. The officers moved to take Meredith away. As she passed my seat, she turned her head, looked directly at me, and mouthed 3 words. I love you, Dad. I turned away. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. So, Mr. Cross, do you feel justice was served? I stopped, looked at the cameras. Justice doesn't bring back those who are gone. It only keeps the living safe. Claire took my arm, and we walked toward the car. As we reached it, she leaned close and whispered, "We're not safe yet. There are still others." I nodded. She was right. Monday, February 23rd, 6:47 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your wife's car has been tampered with. Check the brakes. I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. Claire had left the courthouse 3 minutes ago, heading home. I hit the call button, my hands shaking. Within, Claire's voice calm, confused. "What's wrong?" "Stop the car," I said, my voice sharp. "Right now. Don't touch the brakes. Don't move. Just pull over using the emergency brake if you have to." "What, Nathan? I'm on the highway. Testimonies extraditing." "Claire, please, just stop the car." A long pause. Then, "Okay, I'm pulling over. Engine's off. What's going on?" "Stay there. I'm coming to you." I grabbed my jacket and ran, well-limped, as fast as I could on my still-healing leg toward the courthouse parking garage. 7:02 p.m. I found her car on the shoulder of the highway, hazard lights flashing. Claire sat in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel, her face pale. I opened the door. "Are you okay?" She nodded, but her hands were shaking. "What's happening?" I showed her the text. Her eyes widened. "Who sent that?" "I don't know, but we're not taking chances." I called Agent Reeves. Within 20 minutes, an FBI forensic team and a mechanic named Luis Cordero, mid-30s, calm, methodical, arrived with a flatbed tow truck. At 7:34 p.m., Cordero crawled under Claire's car with a flashlight and a camera. 5 minutes later, he emerged, his face grim. "Brake line's been scored," he said, holding up his phone to show me a close-up photo. A thin, deliberate cut ran along the metal line, deep enough to weaken it, but not sever it immediately. Whoever did this used a blade. It's designed to fail under heavy braking, like if she had to stop suddenly on the highway. At speed with no brakes. He didn't finish the sentence. Claire's face went white when I asked. "Within the last few hours. The cut's fresh, no rust, no oxidation." At 8:11 p.m., we reviewed the courthouse parking garage security footage. At 4:37 p.m., while Claire and I had been inside listening to post-trial debriefs, a figure in a dark hoodie and jeans walked past Claire's car. Male, approximately 5'10", average build. He paused for 11 seconds, knelt beside the rear driver's side wheel, then stood and walked away. The camera angle didn't catch his face. "Run facial recognition on what we have," Reeves said to the tech. Cross-reference with known associates of Preston Vance and Meredith Cross-Palmer. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, same as before. "You're welcome. I'm not your enemy. But Meredith has 3 others outside. This won't end with her sentence. I stared at the message, my pulse pounding. I typed quickly, "Who are you?" The response came 30 seconds later. "Someone who got out before it was too late. Preston has partners. Be careful." I showed the texts to Reeves. "We're tracing it now," he said, handing my phone to a technician. Tuesday, February 24th, 7:52 a.m., Reeves called. "Locked, we traced the texts. Burner phone, but the purchase was tied to a credit card." Douglas Carr. I sat up in bed. Preston's accountant. The same. We've got units moving to his location now. He's at his office downtown. We'll have him in custody within the hour. At 9 a.m., I sat across from Douglas Carr in the same FBI conference room where I'd met Tyler 3 weeks earlier. Carr looked nothing like I'd imagined. Balding wire-rimmed glasses, nervous hands fidgeting with a pen. He wore a rumpled dress shirt and looked like he hadn't slept in days. Mr. Carr." Reeves began, his voice flat. "You sent the warning texts to Nathan Cross." "Why?" Carr swallowed hard. "I have a 12-year-old daughter. I didn't want Mrs. Cross's passing on my conscience." "Humpy, but you were part of the conspiracy," Reeves said. "You laundered $1.2 million through offshore accounts for Preston Vance and Meredith Cross Palmer. You knew what they were doing." "I knew about the financial fraud," Carr said quickly. "The forged documents, the foundation takeover. But I didn't know about the plan to end Mr. Cross's life until after it happened. When I saw the news, when I saw what Meredith did in that wine cellar, I realized how deep this went. And when I heard Marcus was going after Mrs. Cross," he trailed off, his voice shaking. "Marcus," Reeves leaned forward. "Marcus Reed," Carr nodded. "Private investigator. Preston hired him 2 years ago. Ex-military. Special forces, I think. He did surveillance, intimidation, evidence cleanup. When Meredith got arrested, Marcus went underground. But Preston had already paid him $50,000 to tie up loose ends if things went wrong." "Loose ends," I said quietly. "Clare, me, Trevor." Carr nodded miserably. "I overheard Marcus talking to Preston's associate Elena Voss last week. She told him to handle the witnesses. I sent the warning because I couldn't let another person get hurt." Reeves pulled out a notepad. "Elena Voss. Who is she?" "Real estate attorney. She forged property documents for Preston, helped him move assets. She was also Preston's lover before Meredith. She's smart, connected, dangerous." "Where is she now?" I don't know. She left the country 2 days after Meredith's sentencing. Somewhere in a tropical location south of here, I think. But I don't have details." Reeves made a note. "And Marcus Reed, he's still local. He has an apartment on the east side, but he moves around a lot. Counter-surveillance training." Reeves stood. "Mr. Carr, we're prepared to offer you a deal. 5 years in federal prison plus full cooperation. You testify against Elena Voss and Marcus Reed, you provide financial records, and you help us locate them. In exchange, we recommend a reduced sentence and witness protection for you and your daughter." Carr looked at me, his eyes pleading. "I'm sorry. I should have come forward sooner." I didn't respond. I couldn't. He signed the agreement. Reeves stepped out to make a call. When he returned, his face was tight. "We attempted to execute the arrest warrant on Marcus Reed 20 minutes ago. He's gone. Cleared out his apartment 12 hours ago, right after Carr sent that first text. But our team found something." He handed me a photograph, a map printed from an online service pinned to a corkboard. 3 addresses circled in red marker. 1, my home address. 2, Clare's office downtown. 3, Trevor Palmer's address, the safe house where he'd relocated with his kids after the trial. I stared at the map, my blood running cold. "He's hunting us," I said quietly. Reeves nodded. "We're putting protection details on all 3 locations. 24-hour surveillance. Reed won't get close." "You don't know that," I said. He's special forces. He's been trained to avoid exactly this kind of surveillance. Reeves met my eyes. Then we'd better find him before he finds you. Thursday, February 25th, 11:52 a.m. FBI agents burst into Marcus Reed's East Side apartment. Empty. Furniture gone. Closets cleared. No electronics, no papers, nothing. But on the far wall, pinned to the bare drywall with a single thumbtack, was the map. 3 addresses circled in red marker. Mine, Clare's office, Trevor Palmer's safe house. Agent Reeves stood in the doorway. Phone pressed to his ear. He cleared out at least 12 hours ago. We're too late. At 12:34 p.m., 2 black SUVs pulled up to the federal courthouse. FBI agents escorted Clare and me along with Trevor and his 2 children into the vehicles. "Where are we going?" Clare asked, her voice tight. "Safe house," Reeves said from the front seat. "Mountain cabin 40 minutes north. 2 U.S. Marshals on site, 24-hour surveillance. Reed won't get close." Trevor sat in the back row. Cole on his lap, Lily strapped into a car seat beside him. Both kids were crying, scared, confused, exhausted. Cole kept asking, "Where's Mommy?" And Trevor had no answer. I turned in my seat. "Trevor, this is because I helped you," he said quietly, his voice hollow. "If I'd just kept my mouth shut, my kids wouldn't be targets. If you'd kept quiet," I said, "Meredith would have walked free and more people would have gotten hurt. You did the right thing." "The right thing," Trevor repeated bitterly, bouncing Cole on his knee. "Doesn't feel right." We drove in silence after that. The cabin was small. 2 bedrooms, a kitchenette, a living room with a wood-burning stove. It sat at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by pine trees, with a clear view of the approach from all sides. 2 U.S. Marshals, 1 stationed at the front door, 1 patrolling the perimeter, nodded as we entered. At 3:22 p.m., Reeves's phone buzzed. He stepped outside to take the call, returned 5 minutes later with a tablet. "Surveillance footage from Trevor's neighbor," he said, setting the tablet on the kitchen table. "This morning, 9:14 a.m., he pressed play. A gray Ford Taurus pulled up across the street from Trevor's safe house. A man got out, average height, dark jacket, baseball cap, pulled low. He stood on the sidewalk staring at the house for 37 seconds, then got back in the car and drove away." "That's Reed," Reeves said. "We traced the plates. Rental car paid for with a fake ID, but facial recognition confirms it's him." Trevor's face went pale. "He was watching my house, while my kids were inside." "Ideator, he was gathering intel," Reeves said. "But he didn't make a move. He's smart, trained. He knows we're watching him, so he's being cautious. Or he's planning something bigger," I said quietly. Reeves didn't disagree. At 7:48 p.m., we waited. Clare sat on the couch, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. I stood by the window, watching the tree line, looking for movement that never came. Trevor sat on the floor with Cole and Lily, trying to get them to sleep. He sang softly a lullaby, his voice trembling off-key. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word, Papa's gonna buy you a mockingbird." Lily's eyes drooped. Cole rested his head on Trevor's shoulder. By 8:30, both kids were asleep. Trevor carried them to the bedroom, laid them on the bed, and closed the door quietly. When he came back, his eyes were red. "I'm sorry," he said to me, "for getting involved, for putting them in danger." "You didn't put them in danger," I said. "Meredith did. Preston did. Reed did. You're just trying to protect them now." He nodded, but I could see he didn't believe me. At 11:34 p.m., the motion sensor alarm went off, a loud, piercing beep that echoed through the cabin. Reeves was on his feet instantly, radio in hand. "Perimeter breach, southeast side. All units report," a voice crackled over the radio. "Visual on 1 subject, male approaching from the tree line. Armed. Night vision equipment confirmed." Reeves turned to us. "Get down. stay away from the windows. Claire dropped to the floor. Trevor ran to the bedroom, positioning himself in front of the door where his kids slept. I crouched behind the couch, my heart pounding. Then gunfire, sharp cracks echoing through the night. Return fire from the marshals. Shouting. The sound of boots on gravel. Inside the bedroom, Lily started screaming. Trevor pushed the door open, scooped her up, clamped a hand gently over her mouth. Shh, baby, shh. It's okay. Daddy's here. But it wasn't okay. More gunfire, closer now, and then silence. At 11:52 p.m., the cabin door opened. Reeves stepped in his face, grim but calm. We got him. Marcus Reed is in custody. I stood slowly, my legs shaking. Is he? Alive, Reeves said. Wounded in the shoulder. He's being transported to a federal medical facility now. What was he carrying? Claire asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Reeves pulled out his phone, showed us a photo. A tactical rifle with a scope. Night vision goggles, a tactical vest. A knife strapped to his leg. He came prepared, Reeves said. But we had thermal imaging on the perimeter. We saw him before he saw us. He tried to run when we called out. That's when shots were fired. Did he say anything? I asked. Reeves nodded. Before he invoked his right to silence, he said one thing. He pulled out a notepad, read aloud. Elena Voss is smarter than all of you. She's already out of the country. Flew to a small tropical nation south of here 2 days ago. You'll never find her. I felt my chest tighten. Elena Voss, Preston's attorney. She forged the documents. We know, Reeves said. We've been tracking her since Carr gave us her name, but she moved fast. We're working on confirmation now. At 2 a.m. on Friday, February 26th, Reeves called. Confirmed, he said, his voice tight. Elena Voss boarded a flight to a small tropical country south of here 48 hours ago, right after Meredith's sentencing. We've contacted their government. Extradition is possible, but it's going to take time. Weeks, maybe months. I clenched my fists. So the woman who forged my will, who helped plan my end, just walks free. For now, Reeves said. But we'll get her. It's just a matter of time. I hung up and stared at the ceiling of the cabin. Reed was in custody. Meredith was in prison. Preston, Dr. Pierce, and Douglas Carr were all behind bars. But Elena Voss, the woman who'd forged the documents, who'd helped orchestrate the entire conspiracy, was halfway around the world sipping drinks on a beach somewhere untouchable. For now. April 2nd. Elena Voss sat on the balcony of a beachfront apartment in a small coastal town in a tropical region south of the border, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise. She'd been there 5 weeks. She ran a small yoga studio under the name Elena Rodriguez, fake passport, fake business license, cash-only payments. No credit cards, no digital footprint, no ties to her old life. She thought she was safe. She was wrong. That afternoon, Agent Reeves called me. We found her, he said. Financial transaction trace. She wired money to her sister in Atlanta 3 days ago, small amount, but enough to ping our system. Local authorities are coordinating. We'll have her in custody within 48 hours. On April 9th, I sat in my living room watching the extradition hearing via video link. Elena stood in a small courtroom flanked by 2 uniformed officers. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exhausted, thinner than the photos I'd seen. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, read the charges. Ms. Voss, the United States government, has requested your extradition on charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, conspiracy to end the life of Nathan Cross, and money laundering. Do you contest this extradition? Elena shook her head. No, Your Honor. I want to go home. The judge paused, surprised. You're waiving your right to contest. Yes. I'm very well. Extradition is granted. You will be remanded to U.S. custody immediately. Elena nodded, and the officers led her away. On April 15th, she arrived back on U.S. soil hands, cuffed, escorted by 2 U.S. Marshals. I watched the news footage from my living room. Elena in an orange jumpsuit being walked across the tarmac toward a waiting van. She kept her head down, her face hidden. The next day, April 16th, she was arraigned. The charges were read in open court: conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery of legal documents, conspiracy to end the life of Nathan Cross, money laundering and racketeering. Bail was denied. At 2:47 p.m. that same day, I sat in the visitation room of the county jail, staring through a thick glass partition at Elena Voss. She looked worse in person. Her dark hair hung limp around her face. Her eyes were puffy and red. She picked up the phone on her side of the glass, and I picked up mine. "Mr. Cross," she said, her voice hoarse. "Thank you for coming." I didn't respond. She swallowed hard. "I didn't know about Victoria. I swear. Preston told me it was just paperwork, wills, trusts, power of attorney documents. He said your family was contesting the foundation assets, and he needed legal documentation to protect Meredith's inheritance. I didn't know he was planning to end anyone's life. But you knew about forging my will," I said quietly. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Yes, I did. Preston paid me $50,000 to draft a fake will that left everything to Meredith. He said you'd signed it years ago but lost the original. I knew it was fraud. I knew it was wrong. But I needed the money. My law practice was failing. I was desperate. And the plan to seize the foundation assets. Yes, she whispered. I helped draft the paperwork. Fake board resolutions, fake meeting minutes. I knew what I was doing. I leaned back, watching her. She was broken, guilty, and she knew it. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said, her voice cracking. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'll testify. Against Preston, against Meredith, against everyone. I'll tell the truth about everything." "Your testimony doesn't erase what you did," I said. "But if you cooperate fully, if you tell the prosecutors everything, hold nothing back, maybe the judge will take a few years off your sentence." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Thank you." I hung up the phone and left. On April 30th, Elena Voss accepted a plea deal. 12 years in federal prison. Full cooperation with prosecutors. Asset forfeiture, $500,000 seized from her offshore accounts. DA Rebecca Torres called me that evening. Her testimony was invaluable, Torres said. She gave us financial records, emails, meeting notes. She connected the dots between Preston Meredith Drive Pierce and Marcus Reed. And more importantly, her testimony helped us dismantle Dr. Pierce's elder abuse network. We've identified 15 additional victims, elderly patients he defrauded over the last 5 years. Families who lost their life savings because Pierce falsified medical records and declared them incompetent. I closed my eyes, the weight of it pressing down on me. 15 families. 15 people who'd suffered the same nightmare I had. We're building a RICO case, Torres continued. Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. We're going after everyone connected to Pierce's network. The fake attorneys, the crooked financial advisors, the complicit healthcare workers. It's going to be a massive trial, and we'll need your testimony. When I asked. 3 months, July, I nodded. I'll be there. Torres paused. Mr. Cross, I want you to know what you did, the evidence you gathered, the risks you took. It didn't just save your own life. It's going to save a lot of other people too. I didn't know what to say to that. After I hung up, I sat at my desk and made a list. Final sentences. Meredith Cross Palmer, life in prison, without the possibility of parole, plus 25 years consecutive for attempt to end Nathan Cross's life. Preston Vance, 30 years, federal prison fraud. Conspiracy, elder abuse, money laundering. Dr. Raymond Pierce, 20 years, federal prison, elder abuse, medical fraud, conspiracy. Marcus Reed, 25 years federal prison attempted ending of Nathan Cross's life conspiracy weapons charges. Douglas Carr, 5 years federal prison money laundering conspiracy, eligible for parole after 3 years due to cooperation. Tyler Palmer, 3 years federal prison conspiracy obstruction, eligible for parole after 18 months due to cooperation. Elena Voss, 12 years, federal prison conspiracy forgery, money laundering, eligible for parole after 8 years due to full cooperation. Trevor Palmer, no charges, witness, granted immunity. I stared at the list for a long time. 7 people, 7 conspirators, all behind bars. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like closure. Complicated, messy, incomplete closure. Claire came into the room, set a hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" "Torres called," I said. "There are 15 more victims. 15 families that Pierce defrauded. They're building a RACO case. Trials in 3 months? They need me to testify." She squeezed my shoulder. "So it's not over." "No," I said quietly. "But it's not about me anymore. It's about them. The people who couldn't fight back." She nodded. "Then we fight for them." I looked up at her. We, she said firmly. "You're not doing this alone." I took her hand, held it tight. My ordeal wasn't over. The legal battles would continue. The RICO trial, the appeals, the media, the endless questions. But now I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for the 15 families who'd lost everything. For the elderly victims who'd been manipulated and defrauded. For the people who couldn't speak up because they were too scared, too confused, or too ashamed. And that made all the difference. October 2025, 8 months after Meredith's sentencing, I stopped checking the front door lock before bed. A small thing. Most people wouldn't notice. But for me, it meant something. It meant I was starting to believe I was safe. On October 3rd, I sat in Dr. Raymond Shaw's office for my 26th therapy session. Shaw was in his late 50s, calm and empathetic with 30 years of practice helping trauma survivors. His office smelled like lavender and old books. "How are the nightmares?" he asked, his pen poised over his notepad. I leaned back in the chair. "Better. I had one last week, Meredith standing over me in the wine cellar holding that bottle. But I woke up faster than before. No panic attack, no sweating, just awareness that it was a dream." Shaw nodded. "That's significant progress, Nathan. Trauma doesn't disappear. It doesn't vanish one day and leave you untouched. It integrates into your life. You learn to carry it without letting it crush you. It still feels heavy," I admitted. "It will for a while," Shaw said gently. "But the weight gets lighter. You're doing the work. That's what matters." On October 18th, the Victoria Cross Memorial Foundation reopened. We'd spent months restructuring it, new board members, new mission statement, new focus. The foundation would no longer fund general charitable causes. Instead, it would support trauma survivors, abuse victims, and families rebuilding after betrayal. Malcolm Turner, 60 years old, gray-haired, warm-eyed Victoria's former colleague, and the foundation's new treasurer, stood at the podium. Victoria Cross believed in second chances. He said, his voice steady but emotional. She believed people could heal, could rebuild, could find light even in the darkest places. This foundation honors that belief. Then it was my turn. I stepped up to the microphone, looking out at the small crowd. Donors, volunteers, a few reporters, and Clare sitting in the front row. "My late wife's life was ended by our daughter," I said quietly. The room went silent. For 7 years I didn't know. I believed it was an accident. When I finally learned the truth, I wanted to burn everything down. The foundation, the memories, all of it. I paused, swallowing hard, but Claire reminded me that Victoria built something good, something worth preserving. This foundation isn't about Meredith. It never was. It's for the people she tried to destroy, the survivors, the victims, the families who lost everything and are fighting to rebuild. Applause filled the room. Claire's eyes were wet with tears, but she was smiling. On October 27th, Trevor came over for dinner with Cole and Lily. We made spaghetti. Cole, now 3.5, insisted on helping, which meant flour ended up everywhere, and he knocked over the sauce jar, sending red liquid splashing across the kitchen floor. We laughed. Hard. The kind of laughter that washes away tension and fear and replaces it with something lighter. Lily, 18 months old now, toddling around on unsteady legs, climbed into Claire's lap after dinner and fell asleep, her tiny fist wrapped around Claire's finger. Trevor looked at me across the table. Thanks to you, I have full custody now. The court finalized it last month. My ex-wife went to rehab. She's doing better. And the kids... His voice cracked. The kids are safe. I nodded. That's all that matters. I know it cost you, Trevor said quietly. Your family, your peace. I'll never forget that. You helped save my life, I said. We're even. On November 15th, Mrs. Eleanor Hendricks knocked on my door with a plate of cookies. New oatmeal raisin, she said, handing them to me with a smile. Your favorite, if I remember right. I invited her in. We sat in the living room drinking tea. You seem lighter, she said, studying me. Not as burdened. I'm trying, I said. She nodded. Healing isn't a straight line, Nathan. There are strong days, and there are days when you feel like you're falling apart. Both are okay. Both are part of the process. I looked at her, this woman who'd warned me 8 months ago, who'd set everything in motion. Thank you, I said. For that night. For telling me about the crying babies. If you hadn't, you would have found another way, she said gently. Good people always do. On November 25th, Thanksgiving, we hosted dinner at our house. Trevor and his kids, Mrs. Hendricks, Malcolm Turner, and Detective Sarah Brennan off duty, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual badge and blazer. Clare cooked a turkey. I made mashed potatoes. Trevor brought wine. Mrs. Hendricks made her famous pumpkin pie. We sat around the table, this strange, cobbled-together family, and Malcolm raised his glass. To Victoria, he said, his voice thick with emotion, who taught us that love is stronger than hate. And to Nathan and Clare, who proved it. We clinked glasses. I looked around the table. Claire's smile. Trevor's kids laughing and sticky with cranberry sauce. Mrs. Hendricks's kind eyes. Brennan's rare, genuine grin. Malcolm's warmth. For the first time in 2 years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Hope. Not the fragile, desperate kind. Not the kind that shatters at the first sign of trouble, but the quiet, steady kind. The kind that says, maybe things will be okay. At 11:47 p.m., after everyone had left and we'd cleaned up the kitchen, Clare wrapped her arms around me from behind. And today was good, she said softly. I turned to face her. Yeah, it was. Are we going to be okay? She asked. I thought about that. About the nightmares that still came sometimes. About the scars, physical and emotional, that would never fully fade. About the RICO trial in 2 months, where I'd have to testify again, relive everything again. I think we're going to try, I said. And I think that's enough. She kissed me. That's more than enough. As we headed upstairs, I noticed an envelope on the hall table. I'd missed it earlier, must have been delivered that afternoon. Forwarded mail. From the State Correctional Institution for Women. Sender Meredith Cross Palmer. I stared at it, my chest tightening. Clare saw it. Are you going to open it? I picked up the envelope, felt its weight in my hands. Then I walked to the kitchen, opened the junk drawer, and dropped it inside. Not tonight, I said. Maybe never. Clare nodded. That's your choice. And whatever you decide, I'm here. I closed the drawer and turned off the light. Some doors once closed don't need to be reopened. December 2025. Meredith's letter sat in the desk drawer for 3 weeks unopened. Every morning I opened the drawer to grab a pen or a notepad, and there it was, white envelope, prison address, her handwriting on the front. And every morning I closed the drawer without touching it. I wasn't ready to let it into my life, but I wasn't ready to let it go completely either. December 1st. The letter arrived. I set it in the drawer and walked away. December 5th. Therapy with Dr. Shaw. "You've been thinking about the letter," Shaw said. Not a question, a statement. I nodded. "It's been in my desk for 4 days. I haven't opened it. Do you want to?" I hesitated. Part of me is curious. What could she possibly say? Apology, justification, blame. Shaw leaned forward slightly. "Nathan, you don't owe Meredith your attention. Even if the letter sounds sincere, its purpose is to re-establish contact, to pull you back into her orbit. Would facing it help you heal?" I thought about that. "No." "Then you have your answer." December 10th. I lay awake at night, imagining what the letter might say. "Dad, I'm sorry. I was sick. I didn't know what I was doing. Or maybe you drove me to this. You were controlling, suffocating. I had no choice. Or perhaps I still love you. Please visit me." It didn't matter. Any version, apology, blame, plea, was manipulation. A hook trying to pull me back. December 15th. Claire and I spent the afternoon sorting through Meredith's childhood belongings, boxes we'd stored in the attic, photos, drawings, school projects, yearbooks. "What do you want to keep?" Claire asked gently. I looked through the photos. Meredith as a baby held by Victoria. Meredith at 5 missing her front teeth, grinning at the camera. Meredith at 10 holding a soccer trophy. I set aside a few baby photos, a handwritten birthday card from Victoria, a drawing Meredith had made when she was 6, a crayon house with 3 stick figures labeled Mom, Dad, Me. Those went into a small box labeled Before. The rest, the high school yearbooks, the college acceptance letters, the photos from her wedding, we donated or threw away. The hardest was her college graduation photo. Meredith stood between Victoria and me, cap and gown beaming. Victoria's arm around her shoulders, my hand on her back. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up a pair of scissors and cut Meredith out, carefully, precisely, until all that remained was Victoria and me standing side by side with a jagged white space between us. I kept Victoria's half. I threw Meredith's half in the trash. Claire watched quietly. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I am." December 20th. I took the letter to the fireplace. Claire sat on the couch watching. I held the envelope over the flames and struck a match. The fire caught the corner of the envelope. It curled, blackened. The ink on the front, my name in Meredith's handwriting, bubbled and vanished. I dropped it into the flames and watched it burn. Claire came to stand beside me. "How do you feel?" "Lighter," I said. December 22nd. My final therapy session with Dr. Shaw. "Do you regret not reading it?" Shaw asked. No," I said. "I don't need Meredith's version of the truth. The letter can't change what happened. It can't bring Victoria back. It can't undo the trauma. Opening it would only give Meredith power she doesn't deserve." Shaw nodded. "You've done remarkable work, Nathan. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning to carry it without letting it break you. You've learned that." "I'm still carrying it," I said quietly. "You always will," Shaw said. "But you're not drowning anymore." December 24th, Christmas Eve. Claire and I attended a small service at the local church. We weren't particularly religious, but we needed the peace. The choir sang Silent Night. Candles flickered. The air smelled like pine and wax. I sat in the pew and thought about Victoria, her laugh, her kindness. The way she'd believed people could change, could heal, could find light even in the darkest places. I thought about Meredith, the daughter I'd loved, the woman who'd ended Victoria's life. the person I'd had to learn to let go of. I thought about everything I'd lost and everything I'd found. When we got home, I carried the memory box, the one labeled "Before," to the bedroom closet and placed it on the highest shelf, far back out of reach. "Victoria deserves to be remembered," I said to Clare. "But Meredith doesn't get to haunt me anymore." Clare nodded. "You get to decide what you carry." December 25th, Christmas Day. We hosted a small gathering. Trevor and his kids, Mrs. Hendricks, Malcolm Turner. We exchanged simple gifts, ate cookies, watched Cole and Lily play with new toys on the living room floor. At sunset, we stepped outside. The air was cool. The sky turned pink and orange, and then fireflies. Dozens of them drifting through the yard, blinking softly in the twilight. Cole squealed with delight and ran after them, his little arms outstretched, trying to catch them. Lily toddled after him, laughing. I stood on the porch, watching. Clare slipped her hand into mine. "This is good." "Yeah," I said, "it is." Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, I sat at my desk. I thought about tomorrow, about waking up, drinking coffee with Clare, answering emails, maybe calling one of the 15 families who'd been victims of Dr. Pierce's elder abuse ring, offering support, sharing my story, helping someone survive. And I realized that was the point. Not to erase the past, not to pretend it never happened, but to stop letting it dictate the future. Meredith had tried to destroy me. She'd ended Victoria's life. She'd poisoned Clare. She'd conspired to steal everything I'd built, but she hadn't won. I was still here, still standing, still fighting not for revenge but for healing. Not for myself alone, but for others who'd walked this same dark road. I closed the desk drawer empty now, the letter long since burned and turned off the light. Tomorrow I would wake up, and I would keep going. That was enough. If you're reading this, or listening to this Grandpa Stories recording, I'm leaving behind. I want you to understand something I wish I'd known earlier. Family isn't always what you think it is. For 61 years, I believed blood was everything. I believed my daughter would never harm me because we shared DNA, shared history, shared love. I was wrong, and that mistake nearly cost me everything. Here's what I learned, and what I hope you never have to learn the hard way. First, trust your instincts. When Mrs. Hendricks told me about those crying babies, every fiber of my being knew something was wrong. But I hesitated. I second-guessed myself. Don't. If something feels off, if a loved one's behavior suddenly changes, if finances don't add up, if your medication makes you sicker, investigate. You're not paranoid. You're protecting yourself. Second, document everything. I installed those cameras not because I wanted to catch my daughter in a crime, but because I knew no one would believe me without proof. In elder abuse cases, and this is a family story that's far too common, victims are often dismissed as confused or senile. Evidence speaks when words fail. Third, don't face darkness alone. I tried to handle this myself for too long. If Trevor hadn't helped, if Clare hadn't stayed strong, if Agent Reeves and Detective Brennan hadn't believed me, I wouldn't be here. When you're in crisis, reach out. To friends, to authorities, to professionals. Isolation is the abuser's greatest weapon. Fourth, forgiveness isn't mandatory. People will tell you that you should forgive to heal, that holding anger will poison you. But I didn't forgive Meredith. I burned her letter unread. And you know what? I healed anyway. Healing isn't about forgiveness. It's about refusing to let the person who hurt you control your future. Fifth, family is who shows up. Trevor wasn't my blood. Mrs. Hendricks was just a neighbor. Malcolm was Victoria's colleague. Detective Brennan was doing her job. But they became my real family when my biological family story fell apart. Don't cling to toxic relationships just because you share a last name. This Grandpa Stories recording isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to prepare you. Elder abuse is an epidemic financial fraud, medical manipulation, isolation, and yes, even violence. Dr. Pierce's network defrauded 15 families before we stopped him. How many more are out there? My family story, this painful, complicated journey, is a warning. Evil doesn't always look like a stranger in a dark alley. Sometimes it looks like your daughter sitting across the dinner table smiling as she plans your end. But here's the hope: you can survive. You can rebuild. You can find joy again even after betrayal tears your world apart. I'm 72 now. Claire and I are still together. Trevor's kids call me Grandpa Nathan. The foundation helps dozens of families every year, and I sleep through the night most of the time. The scars remain, but so do I. If there's a God watching over us, and I believe there is, He doesn't promise we won't face darkness. He promises we won't face it alone. I hope this Grandpa Stories account serves as both warning and comfort to anyone facing similar darkness. Stay vigilant, stay strong, and remember, survival isn't weakness, it's victory. Thank you for walking with me through this entire journey. I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments. If you found yourself in Nathan's situation, facing betrayal from someone you trusted completely, what would you do differently? Your insights matter, and I genuinely want to learn from your viewpoint. If this story resonated with you emotionally, please consider subscribing so you won't miss future narratives. A gentle reminder: while inspired by real patterns of elder abuse and family betrayal that occur far too often, certain elements of this account have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this type of content doesn't align with your preferences, feel free to explore other videos that might suit you better.